Chapter 2341. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. She's from an assassin organization? How is this possible? Wei Min refuted loudly and exaggeratedly before anyone could react to Hong Ling's words. How is that not possible? Min, I remember that your sister was only 8 years old when she was lost, right? Moreover, she was kidnapped into a van and taken away right in front of you. Their assassin organization likes to kidnap girls like this to train their assassins or agents. Your sister was only 8 years old then. It's normal for her to be sent to an assassin organization and undergo inhumane training. Hong Ling obviously had some understanding of the International Assassin Organization. That was why he was able to make such a clear statement in front of everyone. If Wei Lin was really from an assassin organization, it would not be unreasonable for her to be so powerful. However, everyone knew that the special agents or killers who could come out of the assassin organization were all very powerful people. Wei Min could not convince herself that Yun Jian was a powerful person. Why? She had been separated from Wei Lin for so many years. She received so much attention the moment she came back. She was even kidnapped to an assassin organization and was even more powerful than her when she came back. This shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Then what was the point of her tricking the 8-year-old Wei Lin and throwing her away? The people in the van did not pay attention to Hong Ling's words. Even Hong Ling himself was just spouting nonsense. However, no one expected Wei Min to react so strongly. For a moment, everyone in the van had their own thoughts. Around the Wei family mansion. There were many men with guns standing around the Wei family mansion. They were walking back and forth around the mansion. It was obvious that this group of people had Wei Xiao and the rest of the Wei family under control. At the back door of the Wei family mansion, 2 men with guns were walking back and forth. There were many people who looked the same as these 2 men standing around the Wei family mansion. Even if there was any news, it would not escape their eyes. Tsk tisk. Just then, 2 soft sounds were heard. As soon as the sound rang out, a gust of wind blew past and covered the subtle sound of a knife piercing into a person's flesh. 2 butterfly knives stabbed into the hearts of the 2 men who were walking around the back door of the Wei residence with guns in their hands. A figure rolled out from the bushes. Yun Jian pulled out the butterfly knife from the 2 men's hearts. The 2 men didn't even have time to make a sound before they breathed their last. After putting away the butterfly knife, Yun Jian grabbed the back of the 2 men's collars and threw them into the tall grass. Then, she flashed into the Wei family's villa. Outside the Wei family's villa, there were so many people waiting to capture Yun Jian that not even a fly could sneak into the Wei family's villa. However, no one knew that someone had already snuck into the back door of the Wei clan's villa, the Wei clan's main hall. The old master of the Wei clan, Wei Xiao, and his wife, Wang Ruoya, were tied up in the middle of the Wei clan's main hall. Standing in front of him was an old man in his 60s. This old man, who was about 60 years old, was standing in place with a face full of hatred. He saw the Wei family's door open and a subordinate walk in. When he saw his subordinate, the old man frowned and asked, "Is she dead?" "No." 30 snipers locked onto her at the same time, but she dodged all the bullets from the sniper rifles. She escaped. The subordinate's heart trembled as he spoke in fear. Trash. The old man walked over and kicked the underling in the abdomen, sending the underling flying 10 meters away. Wei Xiao and his wife, Wang Ruoya, couldn't help but tremble in fear when they heard the subordinate's words. 30 snipers had attacked a single person, yet that person had still managed to escape alive. Who was this person to have such heaven-defying strength? Just as everyone in the hall was panicking, an indifferent female voice suddenly rang out. Her flat and indifferent words startled the fear in everyone's hearts. The boss of T Nation's underground black market, Limu. You're really in the mood. I haven't settled the score with you for the failed assassination last time, and you've come knocking on my door today? Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2342. Page 1/1. That's right, Limu was the boss of Country T's underground black market. He was also the mastermind behind the assassination attempt on Yunjian a few days ago. A few days ago, the group of people suddenly fired machine guns at Yunjian, but Yunjian snatched the machine guns away. Just as she was about to reveal the mastermind behind the assassination attempt, she said the word and was shot from a high altitude. At the same time, as the boss of Country T's underground black market, Limu was also the biological father of Xianyu, whom Yunjian killed in Marilena's tomb. Outsiders only knew that Xianyu worked for Country T's underground black market boss Limu, but they didn't know that Limu was Xianyu's biological father. Today, Limu found Yunjian and sent people to assassinate Yunjian. It wasn't hard to explain that he wanted to take revenge on Yunjian for his son Xianyu. Woo woo woo. Woo woo. When Wang Ruoya saw Yunjian, she almost fainted. Because her mouth was covered, Wang Ruoya could only blow air into her mouth. Yunjian's current identity was Wang Ruoya's youngest daughter, Wei Lin. When Wang Ruoya saw Yunjian, she thought that she had come back to die, so she tried her best to make Yunjian leave as soon as possible. Wei Xiao knew that Yunjian wasn't her biological daughter, so she didn't have much of a reaction. When Limu saw Yunjian, his entire body trembled. Then, Limu's subordinates who were armed with machine guns surrounded Yunjian as well. Limu did not expect Yunjian to avoid being surrounded by the people he had brought with him outside the Wei family's villa and arrive at the living room so quickly. His expression changed abruptly. As expected, you're just like your son Xianyu. You have a strong presence, but in reality, you're a useless piece of trash. In front of Limu's subordinates who were holding machine guns, Yunjian crossed her arms lazily and pursed her lips. She didn't look afraid at all. You. How do you know Xianyu is my son? Limu was stunned, and wanted to say something. In the eyes of outsiders, Xianyu and Limu's relationship was just Xianyu following Limu's gang, that was all. The number of people who knew that Xianyu was his biological son could be counted on one hand. The strength of the young girl in front of him had greatly exceeded his expectations. Just as Limu was about to speak, Yunjian didn't give him the chance. Facing the dozen or so machine guns in front of her, she took 2 steps forward without a hint of fear, then spoke to Limu in front of everyone. Old thing, didn't you investigate me before you sent someone to assassinate me? When Limu heard Yunjian's words, his heart skipped a beat. He really didn't investigate Yunjian's specific identity. But after he found out that Yunjian killed his son, he immediately sent people to assassinate Yunjian. What do you mean by that? Limu's heart trembled when he heard Yunjian's words. Wei Xiao knew that Yunjian wasn't his biological daughter, especially when he found out that Limu was the boss of Country T's underground black market. Wei Xiao was even more suspicious of Yunjian's true identity. She actually offended the boss of Country T's underground black market. However, after listening to their conversation, Wei Xiao's heart trembled violently. So you really didn't investigate me, Yunjian sneered. Her words sent a chill down Limu's spine. He instinctively called the informant who found out that Yunjian was the one who killed Xianyu. When Limu asked the informant about Yunjian's specific information and heard his reply, the phone in Limu's hand fell to the ground. He looked at Yunjian, his face pale with fright. You. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2343. Limu did investigate Yunjian, but he didn't investigate Yunjian's identity. He only found out that Yunjian was the person who killed his son Xianyu. She was just a little girl in her teens. What could she possibly do? Limu didn't even investigate Yunjian's actual identity. He only investigated Yunjian's basic identity before he brought his men to assassinate Yunjian. Limu almost went crazy because he wanted to avenge his son Xianyu. But he forgot to use his authority to investigate Yunjian's identity on the biggest intelligence platform. There was an international intelligence platform that specialized in collecting information. It was connected to the Kosha mercenaries' intelligence team. This intelligence platform was formed by many internationally renowned intelligence groups, such as Gu Sha Mercenaries Intelligence Group. It was an integrated platform. And on this intelligence platform, any information, even international news, as long as one paid, could be inquired about. It could be said that this was the gathering point of the intelligence platform. The informant who answered Limu's call just now was the staff of the intelligence platform who had found out that Yun Jian was the one who killed Xian Yu after his death. When Limu looked at Yun Jian, his face was pale with fright. Wei Xiao and Wang Ruoya were confused. Limu's subordinates were stunned and didn't know what to do. Dad. Mom. A panicked female voice came from the bathroom in the living room. Everyone turned to look and saw Wei Min standing near the bathroom not far from the living room. She was looking at Limu and his men with fear in her eyes. The Wei family was like the Luo family and Hong family, one of the three big families in Puyo City. They all relied on the underworld to make their fortune. In the beginning, they were worried that they would be hunted down by their enemies if they switched to the legal side. So, when the Wei family villa was being built, they built an underground secret tunnel. Wei Min and her men used the underground secret tunnel to avoid the group of people outside the Wei family villa and return to the Wei family villa. Woo! Woo woo woo. Wei Xiao didn't react when he saw Yun Jian, but when he saw his daughter Wei Min and son Wei Zhe bringing a group of friends back to the Wei family, he started to shake his head desperately to signal them to run. But Wei Min didn't understand her father's meaning at all. She looked at Limu with fear and said to Limu, "Let go of my dad. Wei Lin caused this trouble, don't implicate my parents." As she spoke, Wei Min turned to Yun Jian and spat with a hateful glare, "Yun Jian, you're the one who's going to die. Wei Lin, you're too much. I really wanted you to come back to the Wei family, but you actually wanted to harm father and mother because of you." Before Wei Min could finish her words, Limu was the international intelligence platform was one of the top 10 public in the world. Is one of the top 10 people in the world. Most people knew about the international intelligence platform. Even Luo Jiejun, Wei Zhe, and Wei Min knew about it. Everyone knew that the international intelligence platform was a place where you could get all the information you wanted as long as you were willing to pay the corresponding price. However, there was an exception in the international intelligence platform. That was, there were 10 public biographies and ambiguous portraits posted in the center of the international intelligence platform. The 10 resumes and portraits represented 10 people. These 10 people were the public figures of the international intelligence platform. No matter how much money the employer offered, the people of the international intelligence platform wouldn't dare to investigate their identities. It could be said that even the people of the international intelligence platform didn't dare to provoke those 10 people. They were afraid and terrified of them. That was a symbol of power, status, and identity. Limu's words spread throughout the venue, causing everyone to be stunned. However, before everyone could react to Limu's words, Limu had already stared at Yun Jian in front of everyone. Once again, he used a voice that was trembling with fear to ask Yun Jian, "Just now, the people of the international intelligence platform said that you're one of them. You're really one of the top 10 people in the world that they can't afford to provoke out of the 10 public portraits of the international intelligence platform. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2344. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1, Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. The International Intelligence Platform was located in the busiest part of Country M, and at the entrance of the first floor of the International Intelligence Platform's central building, there were 10 portraits of people that everyone knew. Some of the portraits only had a black shadow and a rough outline, and it was hard to tell if the person was male or female. However, all 10 portraits had their own unique characteristics. For example, they held a weapon that they were used to using, or they had a symbolic tattoo on their body, or they had a broken finger, or they had a scar on their face. However, there was no doubt that the people in the portraits were all people whose names were enough to make the International Intelligence Platform tremble. At the bottom of the 10 portraits, there were also simple biographies of the people in the portraits, which were known to all. Moreover, these 10 portraits were marked with the words "one of the top 10 most untouchable people in the world." Furthermore, the international intelligence platform's people publicly stated that no intelligence team would dare to investigate the people in the portraits. No matter how much money they offered, they would refuse to investigate the people in the portraits. This matter was not considered a secret, it was made public on the international intelligence platform, and anyone who knew a little about it knew about it. Therefore, when Lai Mu repeated the same words to Yun Jian, whether it was Luo Jiejun, Luo Jiechen, Wei Zhe, Wei Min, Hong Ling, or even Wei Xiao and his wife Wang Ruoya who were tied up and gagged by Lai Mu's people, all of them were stunned. When everyone heard Lai Mu repeat the same words, they were stunned on the spot, their mouths forming an O shape, their eyes unblinking, and their expressions changing drastically. Not to mention Luo Jiejun and the others, even Lai Mu's group of brothers were stunned, they held their machine guns in their hands and did not move an inch. Everyone's expression could not escape the word fear. When Luo Jiejun heard this, he was the first to recover from his shock, and he was the first to speak to Lai Mu in shock. The international intelligence platform's people said that she was one of the people in the portraits? The international intelligence platform you're talking about, is it the famous international intelligence platform formed by all the major international intelligence teams? Luo Jiejun rarely asked questions with such a stunned expression. Luo Jiejun, the young master of the Luo family and the future heir of the Luo group, who had always been mature and steady, had the demeanor of doing great things, uttered such words with such an expression. This was the first time Wei Min had seen something like this since she was young. Therefore, even Wei Min, who did not know about the 10 portraits on the international intelligence platform, had an incredible feeling for a moment. That's right, it's that platform. Lai Mu panicked. Just now, when he asked the staff of the International Intelligence Platform Center to investigate Yun Jian's identity, the staff of the International Intelligence Platform Center directly refused him. They also said that Yun Jian was one of the 10 portraits, so the International Intelligence Platform Center, which claimed to be the world's top intelligence platform, had no way of tracking down Yun Jian's specific identity. Li Mu was, after all, someone who had been through a lot. He knew very well that in this world, if he met a strong opponent, he could not fight them head-on. I'm sorry for offending you just now. I hope you can forgive me. About my son Xianyu, I'll use the previous 2 unintentional assassinations as compensation. From now on, we don't owe each other anything. Let's go. Li Mu immediately saluted Yun Jian, then gestured for his men to walk towards the door. Luo Jiejun, Wei Zhe, Wei Min, and the rest instantly heaved a sigh of relief. Regardless of whether Yun Jian was one of the 10 portraits on the international intelligence platform or not, it was a good thing that Li Mu decided to stop, so this matter would not implicate the Wei family. However, just as Luo Jiejun and the rest thought that Yun Jian was purposely minimizing this matter, they saw Yun Jian standing at the same spot in front of everyone. She said arrogantly to Li Mu, who had yet to rush out of the Wei family's door. I'll give you 1 hour. If you can escape from Z country's borders, I'll let you go. If you can't, then, go to hell. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2345. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. How arrogant. How arrogant. She was more than arrogant. Everyone heard Yun Jian's words, especially Luo Jiejun, Wei Zhe, and Wei Min. Even if she really was one of the 10 portraits of the international intelligence platform that Lai Mu had mentioned, and was listed as one of the top 10 most untouchable people in the world, she was only one person. What about Lai Mu and his men? They were armed with lethal weapons and a large group of people. Yun Jian was outnumbered. Lai Mu had just spared the Wei family and turned to leave when Yun Jian called out to him again and said such words. She's crazy. The boss of Country T's black market had already retreated, but she still called out to him and said such provocative words. I really treat Lin, as my sister, but not only are we still here, even our parents are still trapped. She wants to send us into the fire pit. Wei Min hid behind Luo Jiejun, Wei Zhe, and Hong Ling. To an outsider, Wei Min's words sounded right. She was praising Yun Jian in front of Luo Jiejun and the rest. Wei Min did not dare to say these words loudly. She only dared to say them in front of Luo Jiajun and the rest to sow discord. As for Lai Mu, after hearing Yun Jian's words, he stopped in his tracks. Pausing, Li Mu was taken aback. He did not reply to Yun Jian after that as he led his men outside. Not long after, the battlefield that seemed to be filled with smoke quickly returned to normal. Dad. Mom. Wei Min was the first to rush up and untie Wei Xiao and Wang Ruoya's bindings and gagged mouths. Yun Jian did not even look at Wei Xiao and Wang Ruoya as she walked up the stairs. Wei Lin, you're too much. Mom and Dad are tied up here because of you. After that person left with his men, you didn't even care about them and just walked up the stairs. You're too inhumane. Wei Zhe called out Yun Jian's name. His face was dark as he spoke. As Yun Jian's elder brother in name, Wei Zhe looked at Yun Jian and asked in dissatisfaction after he said that, "What do you think? What's going on with you? What's with the 10 portraits of the International Intelligence Platform? What's going on? Now that Mom and Dad are here, you'd better explain yourself. What did you do before you returned to the Wei family? What was your identity? Tell me clearly before you leave." What Wei Zhe said was what Luo Jiejun, Hong, and Luo Jiechen wanted to know as well. Hence, everyone looked at Yun Jian with scrutiny after Wei Zhe spoke. Yun was. She was halfway up the stairs when she heard Wei Zhe. She was already halfway. She was. She was. Then, she turned around in front of everyone and stared at them coldly. Suddenly, she uttered something that sent chills down their spines. From today onwards, don't let me hear any of you asking about my past. Otherwise, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. It did not sound like a joke. After hearing this, the few people present trembled violently. No one said a word as they watched Yun Jian disappear down the stairs. An hour later. In Yun Jian's bedroom. Pressing the button to answer the call, Qing Yu's voice came from the other end. Sister Jian, Li Mu, and the others have escaped from Country Z within an hour. Yun Jian pressed her lips together when she heard what Qing Yu said as her eyes flickered. They had really escaped from Country Z within an hour? In the next second, Yun Jian ordered Qing Yu softly with a smirk, "Kill them with all you've got. Don't leave a single one alive." Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 2346. She, Yun Jian, had never been a good person who kept her word. The words, "keep your promises," had always been targeted at the target. For a weed who had tried to assassinate her twice, Yun Jian's usual practice was to not leave a single strand of it alive. Yes. Qing Yu, who was familiar with Yun Jian, nodded when she heard Yun Jian's words and agreed with Yun Jian decisively. Yun Jian hung up the call and tossed her phone to the bedside table before closing her eyes to sleep. Yun Jian woke up early the next day. She got out of bed early and went for a morning run to the academy as usual. There were already many classmates in the classroom when she first entered the academy. Yun Jian walked to her seat with practiced ease. Morning. Luo Jiechen stood up to greet Yun Jian when he saw her today. He greeted Yun Jian almost immediately. Yun Jian nodded and returned to her seat. Nothing worth mentioning happened until the night before the fencing competition. School ended very late that night, mainly because Yun Jian's class teacher had delayed the class, so it was almost 9 o'clock when school ended. Yun Jian walked out at 9 o'clock at night. Luo Jiechen followed behind Yun Jian like a shadow. At the same time, he chuckled at Yun Jian. "Wei Lin, I didn't expect you to be so amazing. I don't mean anything else. I'm not trying to find out about your process. I'm just telling you about it. Also, I'll be your underling from now on. The kind that follows behind your butt, hee hee." Luo Jiechen was still following Yun Jian to the academy's entrance. They were only halfway there. The sound of a police siren suddenly rang out. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. A police car sped into the academy. I heard that someone died in the toilet. They're all dead now. It seems like a suicide or a homicide. The police car is here now. What? Someone died in our academy. This can't be real, right? How could it be fake? During the last night's self-study class, a girl in our class needed to pee and went to the toilet. Guess what happened? She walked into the toilet and opened a toilet door. Just as she was about to use the toilet, she found a corpse. The people who came back were scared silly. After the school confirmed it, they immediately called the police. Oh my God. Is that a student from our school committing suicide? Who knows? Probably. Two girls walked past them and were talking in a very soft voice. Although their voices were soft, Yunjian and Luo Jichen were both martial artists. They immediately heard what the two girls were saying. *CK, I was wondering why it was so noisy during the last night's self-study session. It was as if something big had happened. He's dead. Luo Jichen was shocked when he heard what the two girls said. Yunjian's eyes moved, but her face was calm as if it had nothing to do with her. Let's go. Yunjian walked out of the academy. When something like this happened, the most innocent party was the school, and the most pitiful ones were the students' parents. However, she still had to go home. The next morning, Yunjian went to school as usual. However, because of the murder, the school had to postpone the fencing competition. Since last night, the police and related personnel had been working through the night. They had not been able to close their eyes until now. Their spirit was indeed commendable. In the middle of the class, two police officers suddenly appeared outside the classroom. Everyone in the classroom was shocked when they saw the police officers. At the same time, a younger police officer walked into the classroom. He scanned the classroom and immediately asked, "Hello, everyone. Hello, students. Is there a student called Wei Lin in your class? Can you ask her to come out for a moment? Please remember the domain name of this book, .com, wonderful book mobile version website, .com. Chapter 2347. Hearing the young policeman's words, someone in the class immediately pointed at Yunjian. It's her. Uncle policeman, she's Wei Lin. Huh? What's going on? No, you're the police comrades who were in charge of the murder case that happened at the academy last night, right? No. Wei Lin didn't do anything, why are you looking for her? Luo Jichen quickly defended himself. No, we're just asking her a few questions, the young policeman quickly said after hearing Luo Jichen's words. Hearing that it was nothing serious, Luo Jichen heaved a sigh of relief. Yunjian's eyes moved and she walked out. It was not until Yunjian left the classroom that the students in the class started making wild guesses. There was a murder case at the academy yesterday, and Wei Lin from our class was taken away by the police today. Do you think this has something to do with Wei Lin? I think it has something to do with her. When Wei Lin wasn't here, nothing like this happened in the academy. Once she came, not only did she attract young Master Jun's attention, even young Master Chen from our class has been circling around her. She's like a vixen. That's true. Maybe the death of the classmate who got into trouble is related to Wei Lin. The group of people talked among themselves. At this moment, Yunjian had already been taken away from the classroom. Yunjian was directly brought to the crime scene. Yunjian was brought here because someone pointed out that Yunjian had a dispute with the deceased 2 days ago. The deceased was none other than Sister Biao, who had touched Ling Qianqian previously and admired Yunjian. This news made Yunjian's eyelids move, but she never showed her emotions on her face. After hearing this news, Yunjian's eyes only moved. Previously, Sister Biao admired Yunjian, so she did not touch Yunjian. In the end, during the last self-study period last night, her body was found in the toilet. When Sister Biao was found, her head was submerged in the toilet and she died of suffocation. The police only asked Yunjian a few questions before letting her go. When Yunjian came out, she bumped into Luo Jiejun and the others. That day, Yun Jian and Sister Biao had a conflict because of Ling Qianqian. Luo Jiejun, Hong Ling, Wei Zhe, and Wei Min were also present, and they were all pointed out. Therefore, the police also questioned them. When she met Luo Jiejun and the others at the outskirts of the interrogation area, Yun Jian did not even bother to entertain them. Her eyes flickered as she suddenly turned to the police officer who had questioned her just now and said, "I'm sorry. Can I have a look at the corpse?" Hearing Yun Jian's words, the policeman was stunned. Then, he said in a daze, "The victim died a horrible death. Young lady, are you sure you want to see it? It's better if you don't get involved in this mess. You're still young, and that scene will scare you until you can't sleep." Needless to say, even he felt that it was a little creepy when he saw it. Yun Jian didn't reply to the policeman. Instead, she suddenly asked in front of Luo Jiejun and the others, "Have the police contacted a forensic doctor?" A forensic doctor was a type of forensic expert in the country. According to the laws and regulations and industry standards, they used various techniques or methods to conduct a medical investigation on the scene, autopsy, symptom analysis, identification of relics, and a series of methods to investigate the real culprit. To put it simply, a forensic doctor was a person who relied on autopsy to investigate the cause of death of the deceased, or to investigate the details of the environment to find the real culprit and give justice to the deceased. Not yet. But we've already sent someone to contact them. After hearing Yun Jian's words, the policeman was stunned and immediately replied. "Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website." Chapter 2348. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Forensic doctors dealt with corpses and even used scalpels to dissect corpses when necessary to determine if the deceased was a homicide or a suicide. Forensic doctors were different from traditional doctors in that they could not treat illnesses or save lives. But in a sense, forensic doctors and doctors had something in common. For example, the courses of forensic science and medical science would overlap in the first few years, but in the later internship, the courses of forensic science students and medical science students would be separated. Forensic doctors dealt with corpses all year round, so when normal people heard the word forensic doctor, they would be shocked and would not want to come into contact with this person. This also caused the number of people who studied forensic medicine to be very small. In the entire Puyo city, which was a metropolis with a population of millions, there were less than 50 forensic doctors. Those who were good at it were even fewer. Yun Jian, on the other hand, was just the youngest daughter of the Wei family who had just been found. There were rumors that she was one of the 10 portraits on the International Intelligence Platform and was listed as one of the most untouchable people in the world. But so what? So far, other than Limu's words, there was no evidence. And what was the highest medical institution in the world of international medicine? It was the place where forensic doctors gathered in the entire world. There were very few people in the medical profession, and it was an arduous and thankless job. However, those who were at the top of the world of forensic medicine were highly respected. Once you achieved something in your profession and stood at the top of the world, those who did not think highly of you would change their opinion of you. In the world of forensic medicine, those who could enter the highest medical institution in the world of forensic medicine were undoubtedly people who stood at the top of the world of forensic medicine. Therefore, when Yun Jian finished speaking, everyone was shocked. One must know that a forensic doctor who wanted to enter the highest medical institution in the world had to go through many trials and tests. A normal forensic doctor would need to be at least 30 years old to have the ability to enter the highest medical institution in the world. According to the latest news from the highest medical institution in the world, the youngest person to be specially invited to the highest medical institution in the world was a 28-year-old male forensic doctor. This male forensic doctor was the youngest person in the history of the highest medical institution in the world to be invited to the highest medical institution in the world. And Yun Jian? She was only 18 years old. You. Wei. Lin, what are you talking about? Our Wei family has never had a forensic doctor. Really, where did you get this fake ID from? What happened at school yesterday has nothing to do with the Wei family. Don't take it all on our Wei clan. When Wei Min heard what Yun Jian said, she almost blurted out her full name at Yun Jian, but she held it in. Not only did she have to take into account her reputation as a good sister, but she also had to say these words with a fake smile. Wei Min was really quite tired. When the policeman heard Wei Min's words, he was misled by Wei Min and thought that Yun Jian had a fake ID. Yo, there's even a replica of the International Supreme Forensic Academy's seal here. Lin. Son. Ah. I really didn't know that you were so capable. As Wei Min spoke, she found a seal at the bottom right corner of Yun Jian's document. When they heard Wei Min say that Yun Jian's ID was fake, Luo Jiejun, Hong Ling, and Wei Zhe naturally had no reason not to believe it. After all, with Yun Jian's age, and her being a special guest of the highest medical institution, no one would believe it even if they said it out loud. However, when Wei Min finished speaking and Luo Jiejun and the others thought that Yun Jian was lying, the policeman suddenly rushed in front of Yun Jian and carefully examined the seal at the bottom right corner of Yun Jian's ID. Just when Wei Min, Luo Jiejun, and the others thought that the policeman would accuse Yun Jian of faking the ID, they saw the policeman speaking to Yun Jian in a very respectful tone. This seal is really personally printed by the president of the highest medical institution in the world. With the assistance of the medical examiner from the highest medical institution in the world, there's no way for anything to go wrong. Mr. Medical Examiner, thank you for your hard work. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2349. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. When the police were investigating cases, there would often be cases of unnatural deaths that were suspected to be homicides. At this time, forensic science played a huge role. There were even cases where the deceased would be disguised as suicide. If there was no forensic science at this time, then the deceased would have died unjustly, and the murderer would be free. Forensic science was the source of these cases. That was why forensic science was a very respectable profession. The police officer recognized the seal as he had seen it on the news before. The seal of the International Supreme Court was not something that could be easily imitated by outsiders. For a forensic science that was worthy of respect, the police officer gave Yun Jian the highest respect. Hearing this, Yun Jian squinted her eyes and nodded. Police officer. How's the investigation of Lin Jiaoyue's case? Yesterday, when Lin Jiaoyue's parents heard the news, they both fainted and were sent to the hospital for emergency treatment. Lin Jiaoyue's father said that if the school and the police did not give him an explanation, he would. So I'm here to ask about the situation. A mature man's urgent voice sounded. Yun Jian turned her head and saw a middle-aged man in his 40s standing in front of her. Lin Jiaoyue was the real name of the deceased, Sister Biao. It was hard to imagine that such a boorish girl like Sister Biao would have such a literary and ladylike name. But if one only looked at Sister Biao's appearance, she was so petite that she was only slightly shorter than Yun Jian. Her perfect figure matched Lin Jiaoyue's literary and ladylike name. You are Lin Jiaoyue's class teacher, right? The police officer looked at the middle-aged man in his 40s and asked. Yes. The middle-aged man nodded. This middle-aged man was Sister Biao's class teacher, Teacher Yang. The case has already begun its investigation. I believe there will be a result soon. If you are still worried, you can come with us to take a look. At the same time, you can also provide information about Lin Jiaoyue's current situation and relationships in school. The police officer looked at Teacher Yang and said. Okay. As long as you can find the unpardonable murderer, I will definitely cooperate with you. Teacher Yang listened and quickly nodded. Yes. The policeman nodded at Mr. Yang, then turned to look at Yun Jian and extended his hand to Yun Jian. Let me formally introduce myself. My surname is Zhou. You can call me Captain Zhou. I am the person in charge of the investigation of this case. Yun Jian didn't reach out, but she nodded. Wei Lin. Seeing Yun Jian and Captain Zhou walking toward the crime scene, Luo Jiejun and Wei Min gulped. You guys go back first. I'll follow them and see what's going on. Luo Jejun couldn't help but retort. With that, Luo Jejun chased after Yunjian. I'll go too. When Wei Min heard this, she gritted her teeth and quickly followed. When Wei Zhe and Hong Ling saw this, they naturally couldn't just leave on their own, and the two of them chased after him. The crime scene is right in front of us. The victim was found in the girls' toilet on the west side of the school. As far as we know, during the last class of the evening self-study period, the victim asked for leave from the teacher to go to the toilet because she needed to pee. Later, the victim's head was found soaked in the toilet pit. It's suspected that she was soaked in the water in the toilet pit and suffocated to death. Captain Zhou took the lead and led Yunjian in that direction, talking as they walked. Captain Zhou paused and said, "The body is still in the girls' toilet on the west side of the school. Because it's suspected to be a homicide, the crime scene hasn't been changed in order to investigate the case thoroughly." After hearing Captain Zhou's words, Yunjian only responded softly. At this time, Luo Jejun had already taken the lead and ran to Yunjian's side. He was a little out of breath from running. After grabbing a handful of his short black hair, Luo Jejun spoke to Yunjian. "Can you do it? A forensic doctor has to face a corpse. You're a girl, aren't you afraid?" No matter what, Yunjian was just an 18-year-old girl in the prime of her youth. Moreover, although Yunjian had shown extraordinary strength in front of everyone before, she had never killed or seen a dead person in public. Therefore, Luo Jejun was very doubtful. After hearing Luo Jejun's words, Yunjian, whose path was blocked, stopped in her tracks. She coldly looked at Luo Jejun with contempt and said indifferently, "I've killed more people than you've peed in your entire life. Do you think a corpse can scare me?" Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2350. Page 1/1, Pee that has been spilled. These 4 words stunned everyone present. Logically speaking, such words coming out of the mouth of an 18-year-old girl would more or less carry a trace of awkwardness, unnaturalness, rudeness, and shamelessness. But when these words came out of Yunjian's mouth, there was no sense of contradiction at all. However, what made Luo Jejun, Wei Min, Wei Zhe, and Hong Ling, who had caught up with them, suddenly stunned was not the metaphor of these 4 words, but, had she, Yunjian, killed someone before? Even Captain Zhou couldn't help but raise his eyebrows in surprise when he heard Yunjian's words. "It's just a joke. Ignore them." When everyone present heard Yunjian's words and felt shocked and terrified, Yunjian's voice sounded again. These words were directed at Captain Zhou. Haha. Although the girl was young, she was still a forensic doctor at the International Supreme Court of Forensic Medicine. If she was really afraid of corpses, she would not have been able to enter the International Supreme Court of Forensic Medicine. "You youngsters, if you're afraid, then don't come in. The victim's death was so tragic that I'm afraid it'll leave you with a shadow. Hurry up and leave." Captain Zhou was a very upright police officer. Before he brought Yunjian into the crime scene, he waved at Luo Jejun and the others. "She's not afraid, and neither am I. I'll go in with you." Luo Jejun couldn't help but refuse. "I want to go too." When Wei Min saw that Luo Jejun wanted to go in, she also spoke up. Yunjian ignored Luo Jejun and the others. She followed Captain Zhou and quickly entered the crime scene. Of course, before entering the crime scene, Captain Zhou gave Yunjian a set of forensic tools. At that time, Yunjian walked into the toilet and put on a pair of sterile gloves. Although Mr. Yang was also a little scared, he still followed them into the toilet. At this moment, Yunjian was walking at the front. She didn't panic at all when she saw the corpse. As for Wei Min, Hong Ling, and Wei Zhe, they followed closely behind Luo Jejun. Luo Jejun's forehead also broke out in cold sweat, but when he saw that Yunjian was not afraid at all, he gritted his teeth and pretended not to be afraid at all and continued to follow her. Captain Zhou had already seen Sister Biao's corpse, so he was not afraid or flustered at all. By then, everyone had already arrived at the toilet pit where the corpse was found. the few people present suddenly saw a corpse lying not far away. Its head was slightly swollen from being soaked in water, its face was pale, its hands drooping, and its long black hair disheveled. Suddenly seeing this scene, Wei Min screamed. Then, she fiercely hugged Luo Jiejun and was so scared that her whole body trembled. Even Luo Jiejun's face turned pale when he saw this scene. Needless to say, the deceased was not far away. Not to mention Wei Min, Hong Ling, and Wei Zhe, even the bravest Luo Jiejun did not dare to walk forward. "If you're afraid, you can leave first," Captain Zhou immediately said to Luo Jiejun and the others. "I think I'd better leave first." Teacher Yang's face turned pale. He was a little frightened by the tragic state of the corpse. After saying this to everyone, he hurriedly left the place. However, just when everyone was afraid, even Captain Zhou, who had already seen the corpse of the deceased, was shaken by the atmosphere. His heart trembled slightly. Yun Jian suddenly walked directly to Sister Biao's corpse in front of everyone. She reached out her hand that was wearing a sterile glove and placed it on Sister Biao's eyes. Then, she lifted Sister Biao's eyelids and roughly checked. Seeing Yun Jian suddenly walk in front of the corpse, not only was she not afraid, she even lifted the corpse's eyelids. Even Luo Jiejun felt a chill run down his spine. When Wei Min saw this, she screamed and pointed at Yun Jian. She shouted, she's not afraid. She's really not afraid. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Chapter 23:51. Wei Min's chattering made Yun Jian frown. She scanned the floor before standing up and speaking to Captain Zhou. "Send the body to the autopsy room and ask the parents if they're willing to let me do the autopsy. This is the fastest way to find out the truth. Even if someone died in an accident or was suspected to be a homicide or suicide, the forensic doctor would still need to seek the consent of the deceased's parents before he could do the autopsy." "Okay." Captain Zhou responded and went out to get a few people to send the body to the autopsy room. He then sent someone to the hospital to ask about Sister Biao's parents. Yun Jian was already walking out of the washroom. Taking 2 steps, she glanced at Wei Min from the corner of her eyes and said coldly, "Shut your mouth and get away from me. Otherwise, I'll dissect you too." Hearing Yun Jian say that she would dissect her too, Wei Min was so scared that her face turned pale. She leaned on Luo Jiejun and said to Yun Jian, "How can you talk to your sister like that? I don't want to be a burden to you, but..." "I can't shut my mouth." Wei Min grabbed Luo Jiejun's hand and said to Yun Jian innocently. However, just as she finished speaking, Yun Jian ignored Wei Min and walked out. Seeing this, Wei Min was furious in her heart. However, she still smiled at the few people present with a calm expression. "I'm fine. I'm afraid that my sister can't handle it alone, so I came in with her. It's fine. Let's continue to follow her. I'm afraid that she'll be bullied." She made it sound like Wei Min was only following Yun Jian because she was worried about Yun Jian's safety. "Min, you're such a good sister. Your sister already said that about you, but you're still not angry." Hearing Wei Min's words, Hong Ling was really fooled by Wei Min's appearance. She immediately flipped her short red hair and said to Wei Min. Sister Biao's body was quickly moved to the autopsy room. Captain Zhou also received the news that Sister Biao's parents agreed to the autopsy, but they requested that the culprit be caught and brought to justice. At that moment, Yun Jian had just changed into a surgical gown and was about to enter the autopsy room. Forensic doctors and doctors were very similar in some aspects. For example, dissection required a scalpel, and the surgeon also used a scalpel. The dissection also required the same surgical gown and sterile gloves as the doctors. Just as Yun Jian was about to step into the autopsy room, a middle-aged man in his 50s suddenly walked over and blocked Yun Jian's path. "I was the one who took over this case first. Even if you're from the top international forensic medical institution, you still have to follow the rules of our profession." The middle-aged man walked up to Yun Jian and said loudly. It turned out that before Yun Jian came forward, Captain Zhou had already sent someone to contact the forensic doctor. In the end, as soon as they agreed to help Yunjian, the people on the other side had also successfully contacted the forensic doctor. The middle-aged man's surname was Hang, and he was the most famous forensic doctor in Puyo City. He had handled almost 1,000 cases in his life, and 800 of them were because of him alone. He had caught the real culprit and brought justice to the deceased. When he heard that a teenage girl had stolen his job, Hang medical examiner rushed over without saying anything. He had almost a lifetime of experience. So what if this little girl had the title of the highest international medical examiner? If her experience was not good enough, it was still useless. She did not have the ability. After hearing Hang medical examiner's words, Yunjian narrowed her eyes slightly and retorted rudely, "Come on, you'll probably never find the real culprit in this case." "What do you mean?" Hang medical examiner blew his beard and glared at her. "Literally." Yunjian crossed her arms and sneered. "Then do you want to compete?" Hang medical examiner was unconvinced. Seeing the sudden change in the situation, Luo Jiejun, Captain Zhou, and the others were shocked. "There's no need for that." However, Yunjian's indifferent voice was heard. Just as Hang medical examiner thought that Yunjian was admitting defeat, he heard Yunjian's arrogant words in front of everyone present. Her words shocked everyone present. "Because with your standard, you're not worthy of competing with me. Please remember the domain name of this book." Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2352. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. Hang medical examiner was a famous medical examiner in Puyo City. He had handled almost 1,000 cases and successfully found the real culprit in 800 cases. He was the one who brought justice to the deceased. This was because Hang medical examiner's observation was meticulous and could find clues from the scene of the crime. From these clues, he could solve the case completely. Whenever there was a trace of the murderer at the crime scene, Hang medical examiner would be able to see through it. Therefore, Hang medical examiner was very famous in Country Z's legal medical field. Because of Hang medical examiner's amazing ability, even outside of Puyo City, other provinces in Country Z would hire Hang medical examiner for help when they encountered difficult cases. This also fully demonstrated Hang medical examiner's great ability. What about Yunjian? She actually said that Hang medical examiner's standard was not worthy of competing with her. Hang medical examiner was, after all, an extremely famous existence in Z country's medical field. What about her? Although she had a verified certificate from the highest international medical examiners institution, the certificate was just a form of writing. Hang medical examiner, at least in Country Z's legal medical field, was known by everyone. He was a real person who did the work. What about her? Even if she was from the highest international medical examiners institution, she was not even famous in the legal medical field before this. Sometimes, fame represented ability. What was the use of having the best certificate? Therefore, after hearing Yunjian's words, Luo Jiejun, Hong Ling, Wei Zhe, Wei Min, and Captain Zhou, who had been standing at the side, could not help but twitch the corners of their mouths. No matter how good Yunjian was, Hang medical examiner's ability was right there for all to see. How could a little girl like her, who was not famous in the legal medical field, be compared to her? However, the few people present did not know that Yunjian was not famous in the legal medical field because she, Yunjian, was hired as a special guest of the highest international medical examiners institution with a high price in the name of the hand of death, in the medical field. To put it bluntly, Yunjian was hired by the highest international medical examiners institution to keep up appearances. Have you ever seen a big boss move bricks with his workers? Asking Yunjian, the hand of death, to handle the case was harder than ascending to the heavens. Therefore, she had never been famous in the forensic science world. However, if the name Hand of the Grim Reaper was mentioned, her fame was enough to shock the entire world. It was not something that a forensic doctor from Hangzhou could compare to. Young lady, you're indeed capable. You've entered the top international medical academy at such a young age. I don't know if I have any hope of entering that place in my lifetime, but in terms of strength and experience, I'm not inferior to you. We'll know who's better once we compete. Otherwise, I think you don't even dare to compete with me. The one who doesn't deserve to compete with me is you. Dr. Hang was also a very stubborn person who refused to admit defeat. After hearing Yun Jian's words, he used the same words to refute her. If Hang medical examiner flinched, Yun Jian would look down on such a person. However, Hang medical examiner stood up and spoke to Yun Jian in the same unflinching tone. Seeing this, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She had changed her opinion of Hang medical examiner from her initial dislike. Wei Lin. Do you know what you're saying and doing? As your sister, I can't bear to see you make mistakes again and again. Why are you suddenly getting involved in this mess? Hurry up and come home with me. Wei Min felt that the more Yun Jian continued to speak, the more Luo Jiejun's eyes were fixed on Yun Jian. It was as if he was glued to Yun Jian and couldn't be pulled away. She was furious. After saying this, she walked over and acted as if her younger sister had done something wrong and was angry at her. As she spoke, she reached out to pull Yun Jian. However, just as Wei Min was about to reach out to pull Yun Jian didn't even look at Wei Min. She followed Wei Min's path and wrapped her hand around Wei Min's head like a snake's nimble body. Then, in front of everyone, Yun Jian looked at medical examiner Hang and pressed Wei Min's head against the corner of the wall. Just as Wei Min was about to suffocate from the pressure, Yun Jian suddenly grinned at medical examiner Hang and spoke as if nothing had happened. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. I suddenly feel that you're not bad. Let's compete and see who can find the murderer first. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2353. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. No one was surprised by Yun Jian's sudden change in tone. Wei Min wanted to take Yun Jian away, but Yun Jian grabbed her by the head and pressed her against the wall. She almost suffocated and screamed for help. Ugh. Let go, ugh, let go. I can't breathe. Brother Jun. Brother Jiejun, save me. Wei Min was pressed against the wall and almost suffocated. Her first reaction was to ask Luo Jiejun for help. Yun Jian pinned Wei Min's head to the corner of the wall with one hand, but her eyes were on medical examiner Hang, acting like nothing had happened. Wei Lin. That's your sister. You've gone too far this time. Wei Zhe was the first to rush up and save Wei Min from Yun Jian. Yun Jian tossed Wei Min to Wei Zhe before he rushed over and slowly took out a napkin from her pants pocket to wipe her hand that had touched Wei Min's head just now. Wei Lin, what's the meaning of this? Wei Zhe finally managed to save Wei Min, but when he saw Yun Jian wiping her hand in front of everyone, his face darkened. Wei Lin, I'm on Wei Min's side this time. You've gone too far. Luo Jiejun's lips curled as he spoke to Yun Jian like he was ordering her. Luo Jiejun was high and mighty. In the past, whenever a girl spoke to him, the girl would be so excited that she couldn't sleep for a few days and nights. Hence, Luo Jiejun's words always had a sense of superiority. Captain Zhou, tell me all the information you've collected about Lin Jiayue. However, whether it was Luo Jiejun or Wei Zhe, Yun Jian shouldn't ignore them. She crumpled the napkin into a ball and threw it into the trash can nearby without looking at it. Okay. Captain Zhou nodded and reported. According to the information I collected about Lin Jiayue this morning, there were only two major events that happened to Lin Jiayue recently. One was a few days ago. Lin Jiayue took the lead to bully a girl named Ling Qianqian. The other thing happened half a month ago. After a boy confessed to Lin Jiayue in public, Lin Jiayue humiliated him in public. According to insiders, after the boy was humiliated by Lin Jiayue, he lost all his love for Lin Jiayue and has been harboring hatred in his heart. He discussed with some other boys to teach Lin Jiayue a lesson. After Captain Zhou's words, everyone's eyes darkened. Only this much information? Then how should they investigate? Luo Jiejun, Hong Ling, and the others were stunned. Just as Luo Jiajun and the others were wondering where they should start with such a difficult case where there was no trace of the murderer at the scene, Yun Jian suddenly spoke up. "I'll go check Lin Jiaoyue's body." After that, Yun Jian walked towards the autopsy room. Hang medical examiner also had the same idea, so he entered with Yun Jian. Luo Jiajun and the others pondered for a while before following him. At that moment, Yun Jian had already lifted the white cloth covering the body on the operating table. From the looks of it, the deceased should have drowned and suffocated to death. "I'll dissect the body." Hang medical examiner saw this and was about to put on his equipment to perform the autopsy. The cause of death of the deceased could not be discerned with the naked eye. The existence of a medical examiner was to let the dead speak. Some corpses seemed to have drowned to death, but the real cause of death was not what it appeared to be. At this time, it was necessary for a medical examiner to perform an autopsy and find the cause of death from the organs of the corpse. Therefore, an autopsy was needed. Finding the cause of death of the deceased was only to find the murderer faster. There's no need to look for it. It was stabbed to death by a silver needle. Just as Hang medical examiner was about to do it, Yun Jian suddenly said. After that, Yun Jian did not wait for anyone to react. She walked to the corpse and pulled out a silver needle from the long hair on the scalp of the corpse. Everyone who saw this scene was shocked. Yun Jian had not touched the corpse in such a secluded place. How did she find it so quickly? Even Hang medical examiner was stunned. However, just as everyone was shocked, Yun Jian curled her lips. She stared at the extremely difficult to find silver needle and said something that made everyone's eyes twitch fiercely. Only a professional can use the strength of their hands to stab an extremely thin silver needle into the top of a person's head. This move is the basic course of an assassin's organization. Top reading website, M. Chapter 2354. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1, An Assassin's Foundation Course? HST. Wei Lin, how do you know that this is an Assassin's Foundation course? Before anyone could speak, the red-haired Hong Ling spoke first. After Hong Ling finished speaking, everyone stared at Yun Jian, as though they wanted to get an answer from Yun Jian. Hong Ling's words were what many wanted to ask. However, Yun Jian did not reply. She glanced to the side and continued, "For those who have joined an assassin's organization, this is a compulsory foundation course. However, it does not exclude those who have learned it on their own. From the crime scene, I deduced that the victim was abducted on the way to the toilet and was then forcefully dragged into the toilet." At this point, Yun Jian paused for a moment before continuing. "There are obvious footprints at the entrance of the toilet. A normal person's footprints should not be all over the entrance. I have already compared the footprints on the victim's shoes with the footprints at the entrance of the toilet. There is no doubt that it is the victim's footprints. Besides the victim's footprints, there is another person's footprints all over the entrance of the toilet. Obviously, those footprints belong to the murderer. Just from the footprints left behind by the victim at the entrance of the toilet, Yun Jian deduced that the victim was dragged into the toilet halfway." When everyone heard this, they were stunned. Yun Jian's observation was too detailed. No one would have thought of such details. Even medical examiner Hang could not help but twitch the corner of his mouth when he heard Yun Jian's words. Just as medical examiner Hang was about to speak, Yun Jian spoke again, "Please leave first. I have something to confirm. It's not convenient for all of you to be here." After hearing Yun Jian's words, perhaps because of Yun Jian's words, everyone left the autopsy room obediently. Yun Jian closed the door of the autopsy room. 3 minutes later, Yun Jian left the autopsy room. The victim's vagina was ruptured. Judging from the bloodstains, it was ruptured less than 24 hours ago. There are obvious marks on the side of the victim's mouth. From this, we can conclude that the victim was raped and then killed. The murderer covered the victim's mouth to prevent her from crying out. Secondly, it made it easier for him to commit the crime. After Yun Jian left the autopsy room, Ben Ren spoke clearly to everyone. "Rape and kill? Didn't Captain Zhou say that half a month ago, a boy confessed to Lin Jiayue and was humiliated instead? That boy admires Lin Jiayue but harbors a grudge against her. Could he be the one who did this? Luo Zhejun was, after all, the future heir of the Luo family. He possessed intelligence that most people did not have. These words seemed to reveal everything. Brother Zhejun has never studied forensic science, but he's just that amazing. This is something that outsiders can never learn. Wei Min, who had been pressed against the wall by Yun Jian and almost suffocated, could not help but praise Luo Zhejun. However, Luo Zhejun ignored Wei Min. He turned to look at Captain Zhou and said, "Captain Zhou, should we detain the suspect now?" Luo Zhejun's words made a lot of sense to everyone present. Even Hong Ling and Wei Zhe felt that Luo Zhejun's analysis at this moment was comparable to Yun Jian's. Medical examiner Hang stood aside, speechless. However, just as everyone was thinking this, Yun Jian suddenly said, "I already know who the murderer is. Captain Zhou, get ready to arrest him." As soon as these words came out, everyone present was dumbfounded. Medical examiner Hang was even more stunned. After being stunned for a moment, he looked at Yun Jian and asked with a changed expression, "What? You already know who the murderer is?" The complexity of this case is probably comparable to an S-rank mission. How long have you been on this mission? You already know who the murderer is. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2355. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. The S-level missions in the forensics world were the same as those in the assassin world. SSS-level missions, S-level missions, A-level missions, B-level missions, from the big to the small, S-level missions were considered extremely difficult. As for SSS-level missions, they only had a 5% success rate. Lin Jiayue's death was a complete mystery. The murderer must be a habitual offender who had erased all traces of the crime scene. Such a mission was considered an S-level mission, at least in the forensics world. For others, even at their fastest speed, it would take them several months to solve an S-rank mission. To be able to solve it, it would be considered impressive. But what about Yun Jian? How long had it been since she took over the mission? Did she already know who the murderer was? While everyone was still in shock, the group had already followed Yun Jian to Sister Biao's classroom. The boy who confessed to the victim was also in the victim's class. Could he really be the murderer? According to the investigation, the boy who confessed to the victim was not in the classroom on the day of her death. It was said that he had applied for leave. Captain Zhou suddenly spoke when they were about to reach Sister Biao's classroom. Yun Jian did not reply to his question. When they reached the classroom, Miss Yang, the homeroom teacher of Sister Biao's class, came out to receive them. Miss Yang was in class at the moment. When she saw Yun Jian and the rest, she hurried over to ask, "How is it? Did you find the murderer?" There were no surveillance cameras near the toilets of the Imperial Academy. This was also the reason why the murderer could not be found. Miss Yang was obviously very concerned about her classmate's death. After all, she was the homeroom teacher and had to take responsibility. "It's still under investigation. Can we enter the classroom to take a look?" Captain Zhou asked. "Of course, please." Mr. Yang had just finished his sentence when he heard a voice. "No need to enter the classroom." Yun Jian's voice suddenly rang out. What was she up to again? Hearing this, Wei Min and the rest's faces flashed with displeasure. However, just as Wei Min was thinking this, Yun Jian had already looked straight at Miss Yang in front of everyone. "You were not there on the night of the incident." "Yeah, last night's self-study session wasn't my class." Mr. Yang nodded. "So after killing Lin Jiayue, you framed everything on the boy who confessed to Lin Jiayue half a month ago. Do you really think that no one knows what you've done, Teacher Yang?" Yun Jian narrowed her eyes, looked at Teacher Yang, and suddenly said. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was stunned. What are you talking about?" Mr. Yang was also stunned. He looked at Yun Jian and said in a daze. You are indeed very capable. You destroyed all the evidence at the scene, but from the beginning, your expression told me everything. Yun Jian ignored Mr. Yang's rebuttal and continued speaking. Upon hearing Yun Jian's words, Teacher Yang suddenly laughed coldly. After that, Mr. Yang stopped arguing. He reached out and tore off the human skin mask on his face. Then, in front of everyone present, he said, haha. So what? That's right, I'm not that idiot Yang Jihong. That fool had already gone to hell. But even if you found out about me, what can you do? Before I retired, I was an ace assassin in the International Underground Assassin Organization. I'm already very surprised that you were able to find out that it was me who did it. But if you want to capture me with just your group of trash, then you're all delusional. What police, what medical examiner? In my hands, you're just a group of small fries. Mr. Yang suddenly changed his face and claimed to be an ace assassin in the Underground Assassin Organization. This identity scared Luo Jiajun and the others. Captain Zhou and medical examiner Hang were not in a hurry to turn back. Assassin. And he was an ace assassin in the underground. Everyone present was scared by this change and took 3 steps back. However, just as everyone's face changed and kept retreating, Yun Jian, who stood in the same place without moving, suddenly raised her eyes. That pair of deep black eyes was now stained with a trace of blood red. Then, she looked at Teacher Yang, and suddenly curled her lips into a cold smile. Then, in front of everyone present, she said to Teacher Yang, a sentence that shocked everyone present. Ace assassin in the underground? Which organization are you from? How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? Do you know, when I was in the assassin and secret agent world, you didn't even know what I was. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2356. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. Once Yun Jian said that, everyone's eyes widened in shock as they bulged out of their sockets. What did she say? When she was in the world of assassins and secret agents? To be able to say something like that, it meant that Yun Jian was an assassin and secret agent. She had also been in the world of assassins and secret agents. Then her true identity was, little brat, are you even 18 years old? You want to compare who has been in the world of assassins and secret agents for longer? I've been in the world of assassins for 30 years. In terms of experience and ability, I'm definitely not weaker than you. Teacher Yang heard Yun Jian's words and refuted Yun Jian loudly before anyone could react. His words were equally arrogant, but there was a confidence in his words that no outsider could imitate. In Teacher Yang's opinion, Yun Jian was at most an 18-year-old girl. In his words, she hadn't even grown her hair yet she dared to say something like, when I was in the world of assassins and secret agents, you didn't even know what you were. Wei Lin, don't be stubborn. This matter is no longer something we can interfere with. Come back quickly. Let's leave this matter to the police. Luo Jiajun saw Yun Jian standing in front of Teacher Yang, and was afraid that Teacher Yang would hurt Yun Jian. He quickly spoke up and tried to call Yun Jian back. Yes. Come back quickly. You're a genius in the world of forensic medicine. You've already completed your mission the moment you found the murderer. I've already contacted the Puyo City Armed Police Force. I believe that the Armed Police Force will be here soon to assist us in apprehending the murderer. You don't have to interfere with the rest of the matter. Captain Zhou and Luo Jiajun used the same tone to speak to Yun Jian. In fact, Yun Jian's words about being a secret agent and a member of the assassin world were just a bluff from Captain Zhou and Luo Jiajun's point of view. Yun Jian purposely lied to Teacher Yang. Seeing that the situation wasn't right, Yun Jian still dared to speak to Teacher Yang in such a tone. If Yun Jian didn't retreat in the next second, she would definitely lose her life here. Teacher Yang suddenly chuckled. That slut Lin Jiaoyue refused to be my woman and even scolded me for being the scum of society. She said that I would go to hell sooner or later. TSK, look for yourselves, that's what happened to her. But you little brat actually dare to use such a tone to talk to me. Do you want to end up like that bitch Lin Jiayue? Teacher Yang spoke in a slow and leisurely tone, giving off a sense of leisure and laziness. At this point, Teacher Yang cast a sidelong glance at Yun Jian and continued speaking in front of everyone. TSK. Seeing how pretty you are, I really can't bear to kill you, but... Teacher Yang. When he said this, he suddenly paused. His black eyes were originally staring at the ground. In the next second, he didn't continue speaking. After pausing, Teacher Yang suddenly raised his eyes that had been staring at the ground. At that moment, he was already charging towards Yun Jian like a bolt of lightning. Immediately after making his move, Teacher Yang bent his hand into a very standard eagle's claw and extended it towards Yun Jian's neck. At the same time, a sinister voice suddenly sounded, "But you can still go to hell." Teacher Yang's sudden attack made everyone present unable to react in time. When Luo Jiejun and the others saw this, their eyes fiercely froze and even their breathing stopped at the same time. It's over. It's too late. Yun Jian is finished. That kind of fast killer move. If one hadn't been in the assassin world for more than 10 years, they wouldn't have been able to withstand it. However, just when everyone thought that Yun Jian was finished, they saw that when Teacher Yang made his move, not only did Yun Jian's face not have the slightest bit of panic, but there was also an incomparably cold smile. In the next second, everyone suddenly saw a scene that caused their pupils to shrink and their mouths to open wide in shock. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2357. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1, Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Teacher Yang bent his hands into the shape of an eagle's claw, reaching towards Yun Jian's neck with lightning speed. He planned to grab Yun Jian's neck and kill Yun Jian in one move. The speed of his attack, the way he attacked, it was so fast that no one could react in time. His speed, if he wasn't a trained ace assassin, he definitely wouldn't have the ability to do this. An ace assassin from an underground assassin organization. That was a terrifying existence. To the police, an ace assassin who had undergone strict training, who had been through life and death situations, and who had grown up in a survival of the fittest environment, was simply a nightmare. But even so, a powerful ace assassin from an underground assassin organization would still be caught by the police. But at least for now, Captain Zhou and the few ordinary policemen he brought from the police station, plus Luo Jiejun, Wei Zhe, and the other students, as well as Hang Medical Examiner, there was no way they could compete with Teacher Yang. Not to mention saving Yun Jian from the murderous Teacher Yang, who belonged to a group of terrifying assassins from an assassin organization. No. Wei Lin. Dodge. Luo Jiejun's face suddenly changed. He was so scared that his face suddenly turned pale, even his teeth started to tremble. Luo Jiejun was so scared that his face suddenly turned pale, his teeth trembling, because he was afraid that Yun Jian would be killed by Teacher Yang. During this period, Luo Jiejun had been paying more and more attention to Yun Jian. At this moment, Yun Jian was like a cloud of fog to Luo Jiejun. The secrets she carried were like a bottomless pit that attracted Luo Jiejun's attention. If Yun Jian died, then all of this would be gone. So Luo Jiejun couldn't bear it, and almost at the same time, he shouted out these words in a hoarse voice. If it was said that Wei Min had never seen Luo Jiejun's various actions before. But at this moment, when Wei Min saw that Luo Jiejun was about to be killed by Teacher Yang, because of Yun Jian, she screamed on the spot. Wei Min's face hardened again, her nails digging into her flesh. Die. Die. Ha ha ha. Go to hell like Lin Jiaoyue, that untouchable bitch. Ha ha ha. However, the crowd only saw that Teacher Yang had already arrived in front of Yun Jian. At that moment, Teacher Yang's hand had already curled into an eagle's claw and was about to grab Yun Jian's neck and deliver a fatal blow. No. Luo Jiejun, Captain Zhou, Hang Medical Examiner, and a few other people who cared about Yun Jian all let out a fatal cry. Just as the crowd screamed and closed their eyes in despair, waiting to see Yun Jian's neck snapped with a crack after Miss Yang grabbed her and killed her on the spot, Yun Jian's face suddenly turned pale. All the others saw was a flicker in Yun Jian's eyes. The next moment, just as Teacher Yang's hand was about to reach Yun Jian leaned to the side and dodged Teacher Yang's attack. Then, in a flash, she appeared behind Teacher Yang. Even Teacher Yang did not have time to react at this speed. Everyone was shocked, but Yun Jian hooked Teacher Yang with her leg and tripped him. The moment Teacher Yang was tripped and fell to the ground, the two butterfly knives in her hands flew out. The saber flashed in an instant and slashed through the meridians of Mr. Yang's wrists and ankles at the speed of lightning. Poof! Blood splattered everywhere. The blood drew a curve in the air and sank into the dust on the ground. This speed was so fast that Teacher Yang did not even have time to react. It was so fast that everyone present widened their eyes. Ah! Teacher Yang's scream suddenly rang out. In the next second, Yun Jian stepped on Mr. Yang from the back and sneered at him in front of everyone. Mr. Yang, you're the one who's being bullied. I already said that when I was in the assassin and secret agent world, you didn't even know what you were. Crippling your limbs. In the past, you were barely considered something, but now you're a complete piece of trash. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2358. Page 1/1. Yun Jian's action of using the butterfly knife to cut Teacher Yang's limbs was completely different from ordinary people cutting their wrists and ankles. These 4 slashes were fast, accurate, and ruthless. It looked like a random cut, no different from a cut on the skin. However, everyone in the circle of assassins and secret agents knew that this was definitely a move that the assassin organization would pass on to the assassin's secret agent when the assassin's secret agent was trained to the peak state. If this move wasn't executed properly, it could even lead to one's death. In order to execute this move, one must be familiar with the use of the butterfly knife, coupled with nimble movements, and a series of continuous movements. More importantly, Yun Jian's seemingly random 4 slashes were actually aimed at the vital points. 4 slashes, just 4 slashes. These 4 slashes had actually severed the meridians of Teacher Yang's left and right hands. In other words, Teacher Yang would never be able to lift his hands, or walk with his feet. His hands and feet were completely and utterly crippled. The screaming Teacher Yang was now paralyzed on the ground. He looked at Yun Jian in horror, his face no longer having the arrogance he had when he was shouting at Yun Jian. That move just now. That move was indeed a killer move from an assassin organization. Moreover, it was one of the most difficult killer moves to learn among the killer moves. As far as I know, there are no more than 10 people in this world who know how to use the same move as you did just now. Who are you? Mr. Yang, who was paralyzed on the floor, did not even care about the pain of his limbs being crippled. His eyes rolled up and his eyes were wide as he stared at Yun Jian, like he was trying to find an answer from her face. You can take him away now. You can interrogate him however you want. Also, for this mission, please erase the record of my assistance. Thank you. Yun Jian didn't say anything else. She inserted the 2 butterfly knives into her thighs, then turned and left after speaking to Captain Zhou. If your assistance is reported, it will be recorded as a great merit. Are you sure you want to erase the record of your assistance and even the main person who succeeded in this mission? Captain Zhou couldn't help but ask when he saw Yun Jian turn and leave. Erase it. Unexpectedly, Yun Jian didn't even stop. She left these 2 simple words and left. For a forensic doctor, fame was more important than anything else. Successfully solving a case wasn't just a monetary reward for a forensic doctor, it was also a rise in fame. Only with a rise in fame would you be able to get more cases in the future, and more people would hire you to solve cases. When Hang's medical examiner heard Yun Jian's reply, he was stunned. He finally understood. Why was Yun Jian, a person who was invited as a special guest by the top international medical institution, not at all famous internationally? That was because she had solved the case and didn't care to leave her name. This result stunned Hang's medical examiner. It also made Luo Jejun and the others gulp hard. If an ordinary person had Yun Jian's ability to solve a case, they would have bragged to the heavens. But what about Yun Jian? She actually asked to erase her record and didn't ask for credit? Luo Jejun looked at Yun Jian's departing footsteps and pondered. She was really getting more and more charming. Top reading website, M. Chapter 2359. A few days later, after Captain Zhou arrested Teacher Yang, the results of the case were out. That day, Yun Jian had just arrived at the classroom when her desk mate, Luo Jichen, rushed into the classroom and told Yun Jian about the gossip he had heard over the past few days. Wei Lin, did you know? The results of the case that was solved 2 days ago are out. I didn't expect the police to be so powerful. They solved the case in just 2 days. Take a guess. Lin Jiaoyue's death, who did it? Luo Jichen didn't know what happened that day. He thought that Yun Jian didn't know anything, so he asked Yun Jian in a suspenseful tone. Who? Yun Jian knew it was intentional. At that, Luo Jichen looked at Yun Jian with a grin that said, "You don't know about this, do you?" and spoke. "I knew you wouldn't be able to guess. Hee. The truth is out. It was Lin Jiaoyue's homeroom teacher who did it." Lin Jiaoyue's real homeroom teacher, Yang Jihong, was already dead. The person who pretended to be Lin Jiaoyue's homeroom teacher was an ace killer. He was amazing. But he was still caught by the police. As expected of our Z country's armed police force. They're amazing. The real reason why Teacher Yang killed Lin Jiaoyue was because Lin Jiaoyue was bold and unrestrained, but she fell in love with Yang Jihong, who was already married at that time. He was Lin Jiaoyue's real homeroom teacher. Teacher Yang originally lived as an ordinary person. He once met Lin Jiaoyue by chance and confessed to her that he wanted her to be his mistress. Lin Jiaoyue refused, so Teacher Yang killed Yang Jihong in revenge and pretended to be Yang Jihong to trick Lin Jiaoyue into going to the toilet. But who knew that Lin Jiaoyue found out that Yang Jihong was disguised by Teacher Yang, so she wanted to run away. In the end, she was dragged to the toilet by Teacher Yang. After a round of violence, Teacher Yang killed Lin Jiaoyue with a silver needle with a perverted mind of revenge. He then pretended that Lin Jiaoyue had committed suicide by soaking her head in the toilet. Everything was settled. It could only be said that Lin Jiaoyue was very unlucky to have met Teacher Yang, an ace assassin from an assassin organization. Sometimes, when a person's luck starts to deteriorate, you can't stop it. You can even choke to death while drinking water. That's how it works. On this day, Yun Jian went to the school cafeteria for breakfast. She really wanted to eat sauerkraut today, so she brought some sauerkraut and gave it to the cafeteria auntie to add into the stir-fried noodles. After that, he placed the fried noodles in front of a table and sat down to eat. It was really strange. These days, her appetite was getting bigger and bigger. In the past, Yun Jian's appetite was not small, but now, her appetite was 3 times as much as before. Therefore, Yun Jian's bowl of fried noodles was equivalent to 3 bowls of ordinary fried noodles. It was Yun Jian who deliberately asked the cafeteria auntie to prepare 3 servings. Damn, Wei Lin, you're eating so much again. Luo Jichen stepped on the stool and jumped onto it. He sat on the stool, holding a lunchbox that was 1/3 the size of Yun Jian's stir-fried noodles. He stared at her in a daze. Yun Jian responded softly and continued to eat her noodles. At this moment, Luo Jejun, Wei Zhe, Wei Min, and Hong Ling just happened to walk past the table where Yun Jian and Luo Jichen were sitting. At this moment, Luo Jichen was looking at Yun Jian with great interest. When Luo Jejun and the others walked past Yun Jian, Luo Jichen suddenly said to Yun Jian. Hee. Wei Lin, don't tell me you're pregnant. I heard that women eat a lot when they're pregnant. And to be able to eat 3 times more than ordinary people, this means that there are 2 in your stomach. Don't tell me you're pregnant with twins. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 2360. Luo Jiechen was grinning as he said this, his face full of ridicule. As he spoke, his deep black eyes seemed to stare at Yun Jian's stomach that wasn't bulging, and he was all smiles. Suddenly hearing Luo Jiechen's words, Yun Jian's hand that was holding the stir-fried noodles suddenly paused. Jiechen. What nonsense are you talking about? You're usually ignorant and incompetent in the academy, hanging out with your hooligan friends every day. I don't care about you anymore. But what kind of nonsense are you spewing out of your mouth? Wei Lin is still a pure and innocent girl, she hasn't even had a boyfriend, how could she be pregnant? Luo Jiejun had just walked past Yun Jian and Luo Jiechen when he suddenly heard Luo Jiechen's words. Luo Jiejun stopped almost at the same time, turned around and scolded Luo Jiechen. Luo Jiejun suddenly stopped and said such words to his younger brother Luo Jiechen. This action shocked everyone present. Needless to say, Luo Jiejun was paying more and more attention to Yun Jian now. He was just passing by, but when he heard Luo Jiechen's words, Luo Jiejun immediately stopped and scolded his own younger brother in such a tone. And it was because of a girl. This was something that had never happened before. No, brother, can't you tell? I'm just joking with Wei Lin. We usually joke around too. If you don't believe me, you can ask Wei Lin. Luo Jiechen was so scared that his face trembled, and he quickly waved his hand and pointed at Yun Jian. Wei Lin, don't you think so? Luo Jiechen looked at Yun Jian with an expression that begged her for help, and his hands were begging for help. He didn't want his big brother to complain to his dad. Yun Jian responded softly, then she picked up the pickled cabbage stirred in the stir-fried noodles, chewed it, and continued to eat. Yun Jian didn't think that she was pregnant. She used to eat a lot, and recently, she didn't feel like vomiting anymore, so it obviously wasn't a sign of pregnancy. Moreover, even if she was really pregnant, she definitely wouldn't let Luo Jiejun and the others know. Luo Jiejun, Wei Min, and the others had their own thoughts when they saw that Yun Jian was too lazy to say anything else after replying. Not long after, Yun Jian finished her meal and left. From the beginning to the end, she did not pay any attention to Luo Jiejun, Wei Min, and the others. Captain Zhou came to see Yun Jian for the last time. He brought Yun Jian the last news about Sister Biao, who was also Lin Jiaoyue. Lin Jiaoyue's family was very wealthy. Her family's cash flow was enough to buy 10 of the largest and most expensive private helicopters in one go. Men tend to be fickle when they have money. Lin Jiaoyue has a father who has multiple wives. Modern society didn't allow polygamy. Lin Jiaoyue's biological mother died early, and her stepmother married her father. Lin Jiaoyue's father also kept as many as 10 female students or mistresses in their 20s. Later, Lin Jiaoyue's father simply brought his mistress and the children they had outside home to live together. Only one wife could register a marriage certificate. However, the country didn't stipulate that one couldn't keep mistresses, nor did it stipulate that everyone couldn't live together. Lin Jiaoyue's father had many sons and daughters, so it didn't make much of a difference. Moreover, Lin Jiaoyue's father favored boys over girls. Because Lin Jiaoyue was a girl, he had always disliked her. Lin Jiaoyue grew up in such a family. She was bullied by her half-siblings and her father's mistresses since she was young. She grew up without any sense of existence, so she yearned to become stronger. It was also because of this that she began to madly learn taekwondo, judo, and so on just to become stronger. She wanted to be like a well-liked boy, and she wanted her only biological father to pay attention to her. In school, she bullied others because she wanted people to pay attention to her. All of this was recorded in Lin Jiaoyue's codebook. Captain Zhou handed the last page to Yun Jian and said, "This codebook should be the deceased's diary when she was alive. You're mentioned in it." Yun Jian took it and flattened the pages of the codebook. She saw that the last page of Lin Jiaoyue's diary was written on it. Not long ago, I saw Ling Qianqian despising her father in the market again. Her father was poor and sold vegetables in the market, but her father was really good to her, so good that it made me envious. When can my father be like her father and care about me a little more? Even if it's just a little more, even if our family is as poor as her family, or even poorer, it doesn't matter. I have hands and feet, I can support my father and myself. I don't care about money. I just want to live with my parents. So when I saw Ling Qianqian, I couldn't help but want to bully her. I want her to understand that she should treat her father better, even if her father is just a farmer who sells vegetables. Oh, by the way, I met a very beautiful girl today. She has a strong aura and is very domineering. She's my type. She saved Ling Qianqian from my hands. I heard that her name is Wei Lin, the youngest daughter of the Wei family who just returned to the Wei family. She was also bullied by her sister, Wei Min, but she's so powerful. I heard that she dared to directly fight back against her so-called sister. If I can be as powerful as her one day, then I won't be bullied by them. I really want to be friends with her. I don't know if I'll have the chance in the future, hee. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2361. Seeing the last sentence, Yun Jian's red arc slightly closed, and her long eyelashes fluttered up and down. Captain Zhou didn't notice these subtle expressions at all. At that time, Captain Zhou couldn't find any change in Yun Jian's expression when she saw the last page of Lin Jiaoyue's diary. Can you give me this codebook? Yun Jian didn't raise her head to look at Captain Zhou and asked bluntly. Originally, the deceased's belongings should be handed over to the deceased's relatives, but I think the deceased's relatives don't care. Even the body of the deceased was claimed by the deceased's nanny. Take this codebook if you want it, Captain Zhou said to Yun Jian after hearing Yun Jian's words. Thank you, Yun Jian said softly, then turned and left. 5 days later. It was a sunny day, but the temperature difference between day and night was huge. In the winter night, the cold wind was bone-chilling. It could make people shiver all over and their legs tremble. It was daytime when the sun was high up in the sky. If people walked to a dark place, they would also shiver from the cold. However, if they stood under the sun, they could feel the warmth of the sun. It wasn't hot at all. Lin family. After Lin Jiaoyue's death, her body was taken home by Lin Jiaoyue's nanny. She was cremated at the crematorium and brought back an urn. There was no intention of holding a funeral inside or outside the Lin family. At this moment, Lin Jiaoyue's father, Lin Xingyuan, was holding a banquet to entertain his business friends. Lin Xingyuan didn't intend to hold a funeral at all. He just wanted to use the funeral of one of his daughters to hold a big banquet, make friends in the business world, and try to expand his company. Lin Xingyuan wasn't good-looking. His skin was so rough that it was difficult to look at it directly. He had big ears, a big mouth, and a big nose. His face was flat and rectangular, and he was only 161 centimeters tall. At this time, Lin Xingyuan was holding his mistress, Zhang Xiaomei. Zhang Xiaomei was 168 centimeters tall. When she stood next to Lin Xingyuan, there was a stark difference in height. Dear say, Lin Jiaoyue has already passed away, and this urn is placed at the entrance of our living room. How ominous is that? If you ask me, let's throw that thing out the door. My dear, I say this for the good of our family. How ominous would it be if so many big bosses came up tonight and saw that urn? What a disappointment. Right? At this moment, Zhang Xiaomei was about to stick her full breasts to Lin Xingyuan. She used all her strength to blow air into Lin Xingyuan's ear. Good, good, good. I'll do as you say. Lin Xingyuan patted Zhang Xiaomei's butt and nodded. Zhang Xiaomei was only 20 years old. She was young enough to be his new mistress. She was pretty, and most importantly, she was good in bed. After Lin Xingyuan agreed with Zhang Xiaomei, he hurriedly called the Lin family's only nanny over. Lin Jiaoyue's mother passed away early, so Lin Jiaoyue was raised by her nanny. Lin Jiaoyue's death caused the nanny to be in pain and worry for the past few days. When she heard that Lin Xingyuan was going to move Lin Jiaoyue's urn from the Lin family's living room to the door, the nanny's tears instantly fell. She stood up and resisted Lin Xingyuan for the first time. "Master, Yu is also your daughter. She hasn't been buried yet, so let her stay at home for a while. It's cold outside, I'm afraid of her. I'm afraid of her catching a cold." As the nanny spoke, her tears couldn't stop falling. Her good daughter, wow. She was only in her teens, and at such a young age, she had already entered heaven. Moreover, was there no room for her ashes in the house? Is this family yours or mine? You don't want to let it go. Good. Someone, move the urn and all the wreaths, these ominous things out. Lin Xingyuan was so angry that a lump of air came out of his nose and he roared. Someone immediately walked over to throw the urn and wreaths, which symbolized Lin Jiaoyue's farewell, out of the Lin family's door. The nanny cried as she rushed over to stop them, but she was pushed to the ground. Just as the mistress Zhang Xiaomei smirked and her plan succeeded, the door was suddenly kicked open. The solid door was uprooted and kicked over 10 meters away, almost crushing one of the guests. At that moment, a beautiful girl who had stopped outside the door and entered, immediately appeared in front of everyone's frightened eyes. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 2362. When Yun Jian appeared in front of everyone present was so shocked that they trembled violently. Who was this young girl who suddenly appeared in front of everyone? Looking at her age, she shouldn't be more than 18. An 18-year-old girl had actually kicked away a huge door with a single kick. What kind of leg strength did she have to be able to do that? Everyone present was shocked by Yun Jian's kick. Lin Xingyuan and Zhang Xiaomei were no exception. But after regaining his senses, Lin Xingyuan stared at Yun Jian with vigilance and asked, "Who are you? Do you know where this is? How dare you trespass on private property?" However, Yun Jian only raised her head slightly and glanced at Lin Xingyuan from the corner of her eyes. Then, she walked to the side of the Lin family's hall and walked to an inconspicuous corner. That was where Lin Jiaoyue's urn was originally placed. Security. Security. Get him out of here. Seeing Yun Jian walk to the place where Lin Jiaoyue's urn was placed, Lin Xingyuan shouted loudly in an exaggerated tone. What Lin Xingyuan was afraid of was, of course, not that Yun Jian would destroy Lin Jiaoyue's urn, but that he was frightened by Yun Jian's kick just now. He was afraid that Yun Jian would turn around and deal with him. Just as Lin Xingyuan was shouting in a frightened voice, the nanny suddenly gritted her teeth and rushed 2 steps in front of Lin Xingyuan. Then, in front of all the guests, she knelt down in front of Lin Xingyuan. "Master. I beg you. Today is Yu Yu's last day in the Lin family. Don't let her leave sadly. That little girl should be Yu Yu's friend. Let her send Yu Yu off. I beg you. I beg you, master." The nanny couldn't stop crying. She kowtowed to Lin Xingyuan while pleading loudly. After all, the nanny had worked in the Lin family for decades. Moreover, she was his own flesh and blood, so Lin Xingyuan nodded and agreed after hearing this. However, just as Lin Xingyuan was about to nod and agree, "Dear, I've seen Yeye's friend before. That woman just kicked our door in front of Yeye's morning hall. She's definitely not Yeye's friend. Also, putting the urn in the main hall is really inauspicious. My dear, don't you love me anymore?" Annoying, Zhang Xiaomei grabbed Lin Xingyuan's hand and used her chest to touch Lin Xingyuan's head while acting coquettishly. "My dear, you're right. Go and get the urn and all that stuff out. Put it at the back door." Hearing Zhang Xiaomei's coquettish voice, Lin Xingyuan's lower body tightened. He quickly listened to Zhang Xiaomei's words and asked someone to move Lin Jiaoyue's urn to the back door. She didn't even allow Lin Jiaoyue to leave the Lin family's main gate. However, as soon as Lin Xingyuan finished speaking, a ping-pang sound was suddenly heard. Hearing this voice, everyone looked in the same direction. Not far from where the sound came from, Yun Jian was already standing in front of Lin Jiaoyue's urn. They saw a clean butterfly knife thrown directly on the table by Yun Jian. After making a loud noise in this quiet place, it appeared in front of everyone. Suddenly seeing this clean butterfly knife, everyone's face suddenly froze. At that time, Yun Jian was looking at the black and white photo of Lin Jiaoyue's smiling face above Lin Jiaoyue's urn. She was expressionless in front of everyone present. When everyone's faces changed dramatically in horror, she said, "You and I are the same. We both live in a world where we can't help ourselves. You said that you want to be as powerful as me, and I also want to be as ordinary as you. This butterfly knife has been with me for more than 10 years. The number of souls that died under my butterfly knife is exactly 5,000, no more, no less. Now, I'm giving it to you. I'll accept your wish for you. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2363. Yun Jian's words instantly stirred up the shock and fear of all the guests present. Even some people's faces gradually turned as white as a sheet of paper at a speed that outsiders could clearly see. Shock. Fear. Horror. There was not a single person in the crowd who was not affected by these 3 words. For a moment, the scene was so quiet that even the sound of breathing could be heard clearly. Everyone maintained a stunned expression, and no one dared to take the lead and make a sound. Among them, Lin Xingyuan and Zhang Xiaomei's expressions were the most exaggerated. After hearing Yun Jian's words, Lin Xingyuan and Zhang Xiaomei's faces completely froze. The two of them were so frightened that their faces changed drastically, and even their bodies started to tremble violently. What did she just say? She said that the souls of the deceased under the butterfly knife were exactly 5,000 people, no more, no less. This, 5,000 people. Could it be that the souls of the deceased under the knife, a total of 5,000 people, were all killed by this girl standing in front of Lin Jiaoyue's urn and portrait? Who was she? How could she kill so many people? Lin Xingyuan never imagined that Yun Jian was such a terrifying existence. He was so frightened that he almost suffocated. You, what do you want? Recalling the scene when Yun Jian kicked over the door when she appeared, Lin Xingyuan was so frightened that his whole body trembled. Then, he stared at Yun Jian and asked in a trembling voice. Zhang Xiaomei, who was standing beside Lin Xingyuan, rolled her eyes and suddenly glared fiercely at Yun Jian. Then, she leaned over to Lin Xingyuan's ear and whispered a few words. Ha, this little friend, thank you so much for coming here to see you for the last time. As her father, I really welcome you. I wonder if you have any requests, you can ask me. Lin Xingyuan looked at Yun Jian with his ugly and fat face and spoke with a fawning expression. Come here, Yun Jian said expressionlessly as she glanced at Lin Xingyuan from the corner of her eyes. After saying that, Lin Xingyuan obediently ran over. While running over, Lin Xingyuan also carefully looked at Yun Jian. This little girl is so pretty. If he could be like Zhang Xiaomei, that little slut, and take this little girl into his harem. Lin Xingyuan had an evil thought in his heart. This little girl was only 2 years younger than Zhang Xiaomei. Although he was 1 or 2 years older than them, he was rich. Moreover, an older man would dote on her. Lin Xingyuan muttered in his heart, could it be that this little girl had taken a fancy to him? After all, there weren't many men who were as rich and doted on women as he was. While thinking, Lin Xingyuan arrived in front of Yun Jian. Yun Jian had already noticed that Zhang Xiaomei had sneaked out the door, but she was too lazy to pay attention to her. Instead, she stood in front of Lin Xingyuan and threw a white piece of paper in front of him. Pick it up and read it. Lin Xingyuan was afraid that Yun Jian would make a move on him. He quickly picked up the white note on the ground and read it. You, Daddy loves you. What the hell was this? Lin Xingyuan was just thinking about it when he saw Yun Jian take out a codebook that wasn't too thick, but it wasn't too thin either. She asked him to get someone to bring a basin of fire. Yun Jian burned the codebook in front of everyone. Other than Yun Jian, no one else knew or saw that there was a small piece of paper on the last page of the codebook. That small piece of paper, along with the codebook, was completely buried in the basin of fire. A second before it was destroyed, Lin Jiaoyue's fresh and delicate words were still flickering in the light of the fire. My wish, I really want to hear Daddy say it again. You, Daddy loves you. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 2364. No one knew what Yun Jian was doing just now. They all thought that Yun Jian was crazy. But at this moment, as the master of the Lin family, Lin Xingyuan, didn't say anything. Naturally, the VIPs and guests who were invited to the Lin family were even more unwilling to appear. When the small note and codebook in front of everyone's eyes completely disappeared along with the fire in the basin, Yun Jian turned and walked towards the door when the fire in the basin started to fade. Behind Yun Jian was the flickering fire, and Yun Jian walked towards the Lin family's door under everyone's eyes. She accepted her wish on her behalf. She didn't have the right to care about other things. Everyone had their own fate. Yun Jian wasn't someone who meddled in other people's business. Just as Yun Jian walked out of the Lin family's door, Zhang Xiaomei, who had snuck out just now, suddenly brought a group of bodyguards and blocked Yun Jian at the Lin family's door. That's her. She was so cocky just now. She even threw a knife in front of Lin Jiaoyue and said something like, "The number of souls that died under my butterfly knife is exactly 5,000 people." So cocky, so cocky. Zhang Xiaomei brought a group of bodyguards and blocked Yun Jian's way. Little girl, you're so young, but you know how to brag? You even said that you killed 5,000 people? So cocky. Then little girl, may I ask when you started killing people? 8 years old? Or 9? Ha ha ha, you don't even have a draft when you're lying. You kill people every day. It's extremely difficult for you to kill 5,000 people. Even professional killers aren't as cocky as you. I'm impressed by your bragging. I can't help but be impressed. Haha. When one of the bodyguards heard Zhang Xiaomei's words, he chuckled and said coldly. At this moment, Lin Xingyuan and the guests in the room were all gathered at the door. Zhang Xiaomei actually went to call the bodyguards to save the situation. This group of bodyguards has been through life and death situations. I heard that they once rescued their employer from the hands of an international top-secret agent. That's why Big Boss Lin hired them. No matter how good this little girl is, she can't go against the heavens. I reckon that not long after this little girl's bragging will explode. Someone said excitedly. There's going to be a good show. This little girl is really brave, but it's useless no matter how brave she is. The surrounding people started to discuss again. When Lin Xingyuan heard what the people around him said, he lifted his head smugly, no longer looking fearful of Yun Jian like he did just now. At the same time, Yun Jian, who stood in front of the bodyguards, suddenly took out a transparent glove from her pocket and put it on slowly in front of everyone as she spoke. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do anything. A bodyguard from the International Olin Group Bodyguard Company? Hearing this, the group of bodyguards standing in front of Yun Jian, who were excitedly watching Yun Jian put on the glove, were stunned. One of the bodyguards stood in front of Yun Jian and said, "How did you know?" Hearing this, the guests, Lin Xingyuan, Zhang Xiaomei, and the others were all stunned. However, before the crowd could react, Yun Jian spoke again. Her voice was mixed with a hint of arrogance. The next moment, the words that came out of her mouth made everyone present feel a wave of fear. Coincidentally, I have a grudge against the International Olin Group bodyguards. Since you've delivered yourself to my doorstep, I'll send you on your way. Please remember the domain name of this book, .com. Wonderful Book Mobile Version Website, .com. Chapter 2365. As soon as Yun Jian finished speaking, the surrounding people didn't even know when Yun Jian held the 2 shiny butterfly knives in her beautiful hands that had just put on transparent gloves. When everyone present reacted to Yun Jian's words, their hearts suddenly trembled and their faces suddenly changed. Lin Xingyuan, who was standing not far away, suddenly stared at Yun Jian and said loudly, "Your weapon. Isn't your weapon already on the table in front of the morning hall? Why do you still have a knife on you?" Just now, Yun Jian placed her only weapon in front of Lin Jiaoyue's urn and portrait. The clothes she was wearing weren't thick. Just from the appearance, it seemed that she had already handed over all her weapons. That was why Lin Xingyuan dared to stand in front of all the guests and take the lead to look directly at Yun Jian. Hearing this, Yun Jian didn't reply to Lin Xingyuan's words. She just held her 2 butterfly knives and rubbed the blades of the 2 butterfly knives against each other. Then, her eyes slightly raised. "What did you say?" "The previous chairman and president of our Olin Group bodyguard company were killed by you. Then you are." The bodyguard who represented the bodyguards to speak to Yun Jian heard Yun Jian's words and spoke again in a frightened tone. The sudden change in the bodyguard's expression made everyone present dumbfounded. "What's going on?" "The previous chairman and president of our Olin Group bodyguard company suddenly died. I heard that it was done by a woman who was 165 meters tall, had a slender figure, and wore a ghost mask on her face. That woman carried a Gatling gun in front of all the company's executives and directly killed the previous chairman and president in the company's board of directors meeting. In the future, the company's executives directly issued an order that if we meet that woman in the ghost mask in the future, we must back down." Another bodyguard trembled as he recounted what had happened that year in front of everyone present. The meaning of these words was that the bodyguards of the International Olin Group bodyguard company must never provoke the other party. Even if they didn't listen to their employer's orders, they were not allowed to provoke that terrifying woman. "Oh. I thought that those guys would secretly send people to hunt me down. I didn't expect that they would forget about the past and even order their subordinates not to attack me." When Yun Jian heard the bodyguard's words, her deep eyes narrowed slightly and her beautiful red arc calmed down. Could it be that this girl was someone that even the International Olin bodyguard company didn't dare to provoke? After hearing the bodyguard's words, Lin Xingyuan's heart suddenly trembled, but he suddenly let out a big sigh of relief. Since she knew that her former enemy didn't care about the past and decided to make a move on her, then this young lady probably wouldn't make a move on this group of bodyguards, right? At this moment, Lin Xingyuan was afraid that he would be implicated, so he was so scared that his expression changed. He forced a harmless smile on his face. Just as Lin Xingyuan was thinking this, Yun Jian's crisp voice sounded as expected, "Then I won't kill you." After these words were spoken, for some reason, under Yun Jian's oppressive aura, everyone heaved a huge sigh of relief. Lin Xingyuan also heaved a huge sigh of relief. However, just when Lin Xingyuan and everyone present thought that Yun Jian would stop, a scene that made everyone forget to breathe suddenly occurred in the next second. Just as Yun Jian was about to hide the butterfly knife at the tight part of her thigh, she fiercely swung the butterfly knife in one hand. In front of everyone present, she controlled the timing and strength of the butterfly knife's blade and threw it more than 10 meters away, directly stabbing one of the bodyguards in between the eyebrows. This bodyguard was the one who said that Yun Jian was really good at bragging. The knife pierced 3 inches into the wood between the eyebrows. This bodyguard was already dead before he even realized the danger. He directly fell to the ground, dead. When everyone saw this, they were so frightened that their faces suddenly changed. In the next second, Yun Jian's red arc curved. She pursed her lips again in front of everyone present, and then her cold words made everyone present tremble in fear. "This is a meeting gift for you. Let me tell you, the new chairman of the Olin Bodyguard Company, don't think that I don't know what he's doing behind my back. Otherwise, I'll go over and take his dog life at any time. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 2366. Yun Jian's words rang clearly in everyone's ears, triggering their fear and dread to the point that their faces paled. Lin Xingyuan was so scared that his face was trembling, his lips and teeth were trembling, and his originally sharp eyes became lifeless in an instant. Kill him, he. Lin Xingyuan was so scared that he wanted to hide behind the guests. "Dear, I'm scared." At this moment, Zhang Xiaomei, who thought she was very smart and had even taken the initiative to call for the bodyguards, grabbed Lin Xingyuan with a face full of shock and fear. She hid behind Lin Xingyuan. "Dear, save me. I'm scared. That woman is too scary. She will kill, she will kill." Zhang Xiaomei said as she grabbed Lin Xingyuan's hand and pushed him in front of Yunjian. Lin Xingyuan saw that timid and scared look, and his face suddenly changed. Lin Xingyuan's body that was pushed by Zhang Xiaomei to Yunjian because of fear was also supported by Lin Xingyuan himself, and only then did he stabilize himself. At first, he wanted Zhang Xiaomei to be his mistress because not only was she young, but she also said that she loved him. She said that she would give up everything for him, even her life. If a bad person appeared one day, she would be the first to stand in front of him and protect him. When Lin Xingyuan heard this and saw Zhang Xiaomei's face full of vows, he really believed her. He thought that she was an innocent and pure girl who really loved him and was willing to die for him. But if Yunjian really wanted to kill them, Zhang Xiaomei would run over and hide behind him, and she would push him towards Yunjian. If Lin Xingyuan didn't stand firm, he would have already thrown himself towards Yunjian. It was conceivable that after Yunjian killed one of the bodyguards, he would fall and hit the muzzle of the gun, and what would happen to him? It was also at that moment that Lin Xingyuan's mind suddenly jolted. His face trembled as he suddenly recalled that a few decades ago, there was once a daughter that he loved to the bone who grabbed his hand and calmly said to him, "Don't worry. Daddy. Yaya loves you." It was the kind of love a daughter had for her father. In the future, if Daddy is in danger, you will be the first to rush in front of Daddy. No matter how many demons there are, you will defeat them all. The scene changed. He and his daughter were blocked by a large wolfhound. His little daughter stood in front of the wolfhound and stopped it. She said to her father, who was standing behind her, "Don't be afraid, Yu is here. Yu will always protect you." However, the daughter who had once stood in front of him and declared that she would protect him forever would no longer have the chance to stand in front of him and say those tender but touching words. Never again, there was no chance, since when did his precious daughter become one of his many children, an existence that he could do without? That fearless child who stood in front of him the moment he was in danger, reaching out with his short little hands, now, they had become ashes that could be held in a small hand in front of the morning hall. Perhaps when the wind blew, that small handful of ashes would disappear into every corner of this world, never to be found again. Lin Xingyuan, who suddenly thought of this, had tears in his eyes. He suddenly shouted, "Yu." He turned around and pushed Zhang Xiaomei away and rushed to the morning hall of the Lin family's villa. Almost at the same time, Lin Xingyuan ran and knelt in front of Lin Jiaoyue's morning hall. His brows were wrinkled into waves, and tears flowed down his face. God would not forgive those who did wrong easily. If you did something wrong, you would need to pay the same price in exchange. Yunjian turned her head and looked at Lin Jiaoyue's portrait in front of the morning hall again. Then, she turned around and left without any hesitation. Go, cherish. Once you miss a person, you will never meet again. This was fate. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 2367. The bodyguards of the Lin family naturally didn't dare to stop Yunjian from leaving. Therefore, no one said anything about Yunjian's departure. 3 days later, the fencing competition would officially begin. The fencing competition that had been delayed due to the murder case was finally about to begin. The students of the Imperial College were extremely excited. On the night before the competition, Yunjian and all the students who were participating in the competition were called together to visit the palace of the Imperial College. Everyone knew that the first dean of the Imperial College in the last century was John, an aristocrat of country-wise palace. He was also an artisan. After John came to Country Z and founded the Imperial College, the first thing he did was to order people to build a palace that was similar to the palace of Country Y. The architectural style of the palace was pure Country Y, usually, the palace of the Imperial College was locked with a key from the outside. Only when the annual fencing competition was approaching would the registered students be allowed to visit the palace. At this moment, Yun Jian was walking towards the palace of the Imperial College with a group of students who were participating in the fencing competition. Wei Lin. You're here too. Let's go together. Luo Jiejun's voice came from behind Yun Jian just as she was walking towards the palace with a group of people. Needless to say, Luo Jiejun's tone was very cheerful when he saw Yun Jian. Yun Jian didn't turn around, so Luo Jiejun brought Hong Ling and Wei Min to Yun Jian. Wei Zhe was played by Yun Jian last time and couldn't move his hands no matter how hard he tried. Therefore, he could only give up this fencing competition. At this moment, Wei Min found Yun Jian to be more and more of an eyesore. Not only did she steal Brother Jun from her, she even beat up her brother until he didn't know what was going on. His hands couldn't move and he had no choice but to withdraw from the competition. However, just as Wei Min was about to say something unpleasant to Yun Jian, a voice was one step ahead of Wei Min and suddenly sounded in front of everyone. Wei Lin I'm coming, ha ha ha, let's hurry up and choose the flower sword. If we're late, those little bastards will snatch it away first. Everyone felt a gust of wind blow past them, and then a figure appeared beside them. As Luo Jichen ran to the front of the crowd, he put his hand on his crotch and fastened the zipper. Those who knew what was going on knew that Luo Jichen had just gone to the toilet. He didn't even have time to zip up his pants before he ran out. Those who didn't know would think that Luo Jichen had rushed over after visiting a prostitute. Puff! What the hell are you doing? When Hong Ling saw Luo Jichen's strange look, he grabbed a handful of his short red hair and laughed out loud. Get lost. He's just like my brother. I can't be bothered to see you. Luo Jichen pushed Hong Ling aside and walked over to Yun Jian. He said to Yun Jian, don't worry. Wei Lin, let's go quickly. If it's too late, all the swords for tomorrow's fencing competition will be taken away. One of the main reasons he came to the palace was because there were many flower swords hidden inside the palace. Fencing was another name for the sword used in fencing competitions. Not only were there many flower swords hidden inside the palace, there were also many names, portraits and statues of the fencing geniuses from the Imperial College that were hidden in the palace. The college allowed the students to come here every year. Other than choosing a suitable flower sword for their competition, they also wanted the students to visit the names, portraits and statues of the fencing geniuses from the past and remember the glorious history of the past. Everyone quickly came to the interior of the palace, but just as they arrived at the interior of the palace, Yun Jian didn't see any flower swords to choose from. Instead, she saw a tall and familiar handsome man wearing the uniform of the Imperial College, walking towards her from not far away. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 2368. Yun Jian was slightly stunned when she saw the familiar figure before her cheeks flushed in the next second. Although there was no change in her expression, Luo Jiejun could clearly see the change in Yun Jian's gaze when she saw Ce walking over. It was something he had never seen on her face before. Who are you? Luo Jiejun extended his arm almost instinctively to stop Ce. Just as he extended his arm, Ce grabbed Luo Jiejun's wrist without even looking at him and broke it with a crack before tossing the man aside. Then, Ce grabbed Yun Jian's hand and walked to a corner of the palace without a word. F***ck. Luo Jiejun's hand was broken. He spat out a curse, but he didn't chase after them. In a hidden corner of the palace, Ce pinned Yun Jian against the wall and nibbled on her soft lips. It was only when the storm was over that he pulled her into his arms. Xiao Jian, I've settled everything. I'll stay here with you, Ce's low voice rang. Be it in Hun Group or Deity Continent, there were tons of things waiting for him to do. In spite of it, Ce had already settled everything and enrolled in Emperor Academy to stay by her side. It was uncertain when the mysterious person would open the passage from Deity Continent to Puyo City, but Ce knew that he had to stay here with her. Yun Jian replied as she hugged Ce. Her lips were pursed and her cheeks were rosy. It was a pretty sight. What followed was another round of passionate kisses like a storm. By the time Yunjian and Ce came to the public side by side, Luo Jejun had already reattached his hand that was broken by Ce. Luo Jejun was a martial artist, so reattaching a broken hand was a piece of cake for him. Wei Lin, he's. When Luo Jejun saw Yunjian and Ce coming over, he pointed at Yunjian and asked loudly like he was catching an adulterer in the act. Luo Jejun could clearly see that Yunjian's lips were much redder than before, as if someone had kissed her for a long time and left a mark on them. Her man, Ce clasped Yunjian's hand without hesitation and led Yunjian past Luo Jejun. Ce had enrolled in school and signed up for the fencing competition, but he did not bother to take part. Both of them chose their fangs. They were supposed to stand where they were with the other students and wait for them to choose their fangs before they left. However, Ce held Yunjian's hand and stood beside an antique window on the 3rd floor of the palace, asking Yunjian, "Xiao Jian, can we jump?" He was going to take her to skip school. There were teachers on the 1st floor, so the fastest and most convenient way to skip school was to jump down from the 3rd floor of the palace. Yunjian nodded. The 3rd floor was a piece of cake. Then, Ce held Yunjian's hand and leaped down from the 3rd floor of the palace with her to the outside. They left the school by jumping over the wall. Ce was not interested in school. There was only one thing he was interested in, her. When Yunjian got into Ce's Lamborghini sports car, Ce told Yunjian, "The mystery man will probably take action soon. I'll always be with you, I won't let you get hurt." Ce would only say this when there was no one around. Yunjian nodded. Ce glanced at Yunjian and stared at her soft red lips. Unable to hold himself back, he kissed them again. In the end, his hand found its way to her buttocks. Just as he touched her buttocks, however, Ce felt a trickle of water. He frowned and raised his hand to take a look, only to see that the water flowing on his hand was blood. Please remember the domain name of this book, .com, Wonderful Book Mobile Version Website, .com. Chapter 2369. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Ce had seen plenty of blood. Be it the blood of the dead or the living, it made no difference to Ce. He had never panicked at the sight of human blood. This time, however, Ce paused and stopped what he was doing. His piercing gaze was fixed on Yunjian's pale lips, his previous aloofness and nonchalance turning into endless panic. "Xiao Jian, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" The amount of blood was nothing like when his Xiao Jian was on her period. Once Ce was done with his panicked words, he did not even bother to open the door. He kicked it open and scooped Yunjian up, leaving the Lamborghini sports car behind to carry Yunjian to Emperor Academy's infirmary. Ce's expression was terrifyingly dark. It was only when something happened to Yunjian that his aloofness would change completely. His Xiao Jian was fine in the palace just now, but after jumping down from the 3rd floor, once he thought about it, Ce clenched his fists that were carrying Yunjian. If he was not in a hurry to send Yunjian to the hospital, he would probably punch himself to death. The Imperial College had its own school doctor's office, and the medical equipment was considered to be very complete in the college. Many illnesses, including women's private matters, could be handled by the Academy's infirmary. Hence, Ce carried Yunjian all the way here. His tall and handsome figure attracted a lot of attention from the Academy, but Ce did not care. They passed by Emperor Academy on their way to the palace that Yunjian and Ce had visited just now. On the 3rd floor of the palace, Luo Jejun grew increasingly agitated when he saw Yunjian and Ce leaving. In the end, he ditched Wei Min, Hong Ling, and the others and hurried to apply for leave from the teacher and left. Wei Min did not bother to stay with Hong Ling either. She stood by the ancient window on the 3rd floor of the palace in a huff, her mind drifting away. "Hey, isn't that the transfer student who just came today? Ah. He's so handsome. How can there be such a handsome guy? He's carrying a girl too. It's true. He's so handsome. I used to think that our school's Master June was the most handsome person in the world, but after seeing this transfer student, I realized that I don't even want to look at him anymore. Two girls who were standing by the window not too far away when they saw a handsome figure running by Yunjian from the bottom of Emperor Academy. They covered their faces in excitement. Their voices attracted Wei Min's as well. The man who carried Wei and carried Wei Min was running translation was carrying Wei Min translation. Translation. When Wei Min saw this, her eyes twitched fiercely. In the next second, she turned around and went down the stairs of the palace. She casually applied for leave from her teacher and left the palace. Before Yunjian could react and explain herself, Ce had already carried her to the school doctor's office and placed her on the examination bed. The school doctor in charge of the examination was a female doctor. After examining Yunjian, she did not find anything wrong with her body. She was still a little suspicious. Why would her lower body bleed all of a sudden? However, in order not to be mistaken as a quack, the female doctor pressed on Yunjian's stomach twice and concluded that the cause of Yunjian's lower body bleeding was. The female doctor also prescribed some medicine for Yunjian. When she passed the medicine to Ce, she saw that there was a trace of sweat on Ce's originally handsome face, which would not change even if the sky collapsed. It was obvious that he was concerned about Yunjian's condition. The female doctor was afraid that she would be mistaken as a quack, so she pinned the blame on Ce. Young man, I see that you're young, handsome, and responsible. I didn't expect you to be such a person. You actually dared to bring your girlfriend to play a game of jumping from the third floor. You're unscathed, but do you know that your girlfriend already has? Translator, Endless Fantasy. Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy. Chapter 2370. Translator, Henyi. Translations Editor, Henyi. Translations. Yunjian is probably XX, page 1/1. Just now, the female doctor had asked Ce if Yunjian had done any strenuous exercise before she bled profusely down there. In the end, Ce told her that he had jumped down from the third floor of the palace with her. Oh my God. One floor of the palace was twice the height of a normal residential building. Jumping down from the third floor of the palace was equivalent to jumping down from the sixth floor. The female doctor thought it was a miracle that she didn't die from the fall. What was even scarier was that the baby in the girl's stomach was completely fine. That was 2F** king amazing. Even now, the female doctor still didn't know what was going on with the pool of blood that was flowing out of Yunjian's lower body. Dr. Jiang. Have you finished prescribing the cold medicine I asked you to prescribe for me last time? However, just as the female doctor was about to finish her sentence, a clear female voice came from outside the school's infirmary. The owner of the female voice interrupted the female doctor and strode into the school's infirmary. Cough, cough. As she spoke, the owner of the female voice covered her mouth and coughed twice. Then, the owner of the female voice seemed to have suddenly seen Yunjian and shouted at Yunjian in shock, Wei Lin, why are you here? The person who came was none other than Wei Lin, who had seen Ce carrying Yunjian into the school's infirmary. Wei Lin felt that something was amiss, so she followed along. Yunjian merely glanced at Wei Lin and did not respond to her. Wei Lin's motive wasn't that. When she saw that Yunjian was ignoring her, she walked over and dragged the female doctor, who was called Dr. Jiang, out of the school's infirmary. Dr. Jiang, my cold is getting worse. Please give me my medicine first. Cough, cough. Dr. Jiang was dragged away by Wei Min, but before she left, she didn't forget to say to Ce, all right. You can leave later. Your girlfriend is fine. Remember to take care of her body when you go back. Don't play games like jumping down from the third floor of the palace next time. Ce heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that Dr. Jiang was fine. His clean black hair was already soaked in sweat. One could imagine how scared he was just now, but he didn't show it on his face. After Dr. Jiang walked out of the school's infirmary, Yunjian tugged at Ce's sleeve. Ce turned to look at her. Yunjian's Dr. Jiang, Jiang, Dr. Jiang, Yun Jian, and Jiang, Dr. Jiang, Dr. Dr. Jiang, Dr. Jiang. Dr. Jiang, Dr. Jiang, and Dr. Jiang. C. Dr. Jiang. Dr. Jiang, who had been pulled out of the infirmary by Wei Min, was dragged to a corner by Wei Min. Knowing that Wei Min was the eldest daughter of the Wei family, Dr. Jiang did not dare to provoke her. After Dr. Jiang was dragged to the corner, Wei Min crossed her arms and looked at Dr. Jiang. "I'll give you two choices. First, work for me. Second, pack up and leave." "Dr. Jiang, I think you're a smart person. You should know what to choose." Wei Min crossed her arms and said bluntly to Dr. Jiang. The Wei family was a famous and influential family in Puluo City. The children of the Wei family were all powerful people in Emperor College. Moreover, the eldest daughter of the Wei family, Wei Min, was different from the youngest daughter of the Wei family, Wei Lin. Wei Lin had been lost for many years. Among the daughters of the Wei family, Wei Min was undoubtedly the most favored. Dr. Jiang was not stupid. She immediately said to Wei Min, "Miss Wei, what's the matter? Just say it." After hearing Dr. Jiang's words, Wei Min pursed her lips and asked, "What's the situation with Wei Lin? Tell me." When Dr. Jiang heard this, she told her everything she knew. "I pressed her stomach just now. According to my experience, there's a 99% chance that she should be pregnant." Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2371. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1, What? Wei Min thought that she would hear something, but after hearing Dr. Jiang's words, her expression changed drastically. It was only when Wei Min realized that she had shouted too loudly that she reached out to cover her mouth. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Wei Lin was pregnant. With whom? Whose child? What did she go through before she returned to the Wei family? Could it be that the child was the child of the breathtakingly handsome man who was dozens of times more handsome than her handsome brother? No. How was that possible? Why? Why was Wei Lin's man better than hers? After hearing the news, Wei Min clutched her long hair tightly with both hands, her brows furrowed tightly. "She's really pregnant?" Wei Min repeated through gritted teeth. In fact, Yun Jian and Wei Min were already university students. It was just that the rules of the Imperial Academy made university students' lives look more similar to high school students. It was not strange for university students to get pregnant in today's society. There were even rural families who married their daughters off at the age of 15 or 16. At the age of 18, they should be mothers of 2 children. In 2003, there were not many people who were admitted to university in this era. In the previous era, there were a lot of people who did not even study in high school, let alone go to university. If one were to push back the time to the previous century, in Qin Yu's era, one had to rely on exam results to enter junior high school from elementary school. At that time, half of the students could not even enter junior high school from elementary school. In that era, what could they do if they could not go to school early? Of course, they could go out and find a job. If they went out to work early, they would meet people early and get married and have children early. In 2003, there were many people who got married and had children early in this era. However, they had to be of legal age to get a marriage certificate from the Civil Affairs Bureau. Although Wei Min was shocked, it was not to the point of disbelief. "I've been practicing medicine for so many years. I used to be in the gynecology department. Even the gynecologists in Puluo City's People's Hospital can't compare to me in terms of belly touching. Don't worry, I'm sure of it." As soon as Wei Min finished speaking, Dr. Jiang spoke. At this point, Dr. Jiang frowned again and asked in confusion, "What's the matter?" But the strange thing is that the two of them just jumped down from the 3rd floor of the palace, which is equivalent to 6 floors of an ordinary residential building. The scary thing isn't that nothing happened to the two of them. You have to know that the first 3 months of a normal girl's pregnancy is the most important period of protection. In the end, the girl jumped down from a height of 6 stories, and the baby in her belly was completely fine. If it were anyone else, they would have had a miscarriage long ago. And her stomach is as hard as steel. It's as if she's not pregnant at all. For a girl to be able to do this, her body should be strong enough to beat up the men from the special forces. This is too scary. Dr. Jiang's words made Wei Min gasp in shock. Then, Wei Min asked Dr. Jiang, "Is there any way to make her miscarry?" After hearing Wei Min's words, Dr. Jiang was silent for 2 seconds before she said, "This is not easy to do. That girl's physique is too good. Even if you hit her stomach with an iron rod, she won't easily miscarry. But it's not completely impossible." Top reading site, M. Chapter 2372. Wei Min did not expect Yun Jian's physique to be so good. Even a man from the special forces could not beat her. In spite of it, Wei Min's lips curled when she heard the latter half of Dr. Jiang's words. "Humph, Wei Lin, you're dead meat." Yun Jian and Ce left the school doctor's office after a short while. Yun Jian had hidden the blood bag with her because she predicted that someone would attack her soon. She wanted to test her ability. She wanted to pretend that she was stabbed and unable to fight back, causing her blood to splatter. However, she had predicted that scene. Before it happened, the blood bag broke when Ce pressed her down and kissed her in the car. Before Yun Jian could explain, Ce had carried her to the school doctor's office in a panic, which led to the scene just now. In fact, Yun Jian did not tell Ce immediately because she wanted to see how much Ce cared about her. It was only when Yun Jian saw clearly that the beads of sweat on Ce's forehead had stopped flowing when he realized that the puddle of blood was actually a blood bag. Grabbing a handful of strands of black hair, he went to Yun Jian and hugged her. "Xiao Jian, don't scare me next time." He was truly afraid that something would happen to his Xiao Jian. When it came to the people he cared about, he would be extremely concerned even if they were the slightest bit injured, afraid that something would happen to them. Ce cared about Yun Jian more than his own life, which was why his first reaction when he saw Yun Jian bleeding was fear. It was just that Ce did not show it on his face. Yun Jian's lips curled up at Ce's words as she hugged Ce back. Yun Jian was sitting on the examination bed with her legs dangling on the floor while Ce bent over to hug her. The angle allowed Yun Jian to rest her chin on his shoulder. When Dr. Jiang came in again, Wei Min had already left. In front of Yun Jian and Ce, she didn't mention what Dr. Jiang had said to Wei Min. Dr. Jiang also pretended not to know about Yun Jian's pregnancy. She silently prescribed 2 sets of ordinary medicine for Yun Jian without saying much. "Take your medicine on time." "All right, you can leave now," Dr. Jiang said. Upon hearing this, Ce grabbed Yun Jian's hand and turned to leave. Dr. Jiang, who was sitting in the school doctor's office, shook her head as she watched Yun Jian and Ce leave. Sigh, of all the people they could have provoked, they actually provoked Wei Min. Looks like this young couple won't last long. At this moment, Dr. Jiang had no idea that the future of Wei Min and her would be completely ruined because of today's decision. After returning home, Ce went upstairs to take a shower. Yun Jian informed Wei Xiao that she would not be going back to the Wei family today. This was a temporary suite that Ce had bought. Chapter 2373. Page 1/1. After the passionate moment in the kitchen, Yun Jian collapsed in Ce's arms. Ce carried her to the bathroom for a shower. By the time Ce carried her back to the bedroom, Yun Jian was already asleep. At this moment, Ce had no idea that Yun Jian was pregnant. Yun Jian was also unaware that she had a new life in her stomach. Perhaps it was because of the new life in Yun Jian's stomach, or perhaps it was because of Ce's company, but Yun Jian's vigilance had completely relaxed. She slept very deeply and peacefully. Since Ce had followed Yun Jian to the Imperial College, he naturally wouldn't leave anytime soon. The next day, Ce arrived at the Imperial College with his 5 fingers interlocked with Yunjian's. After entering the college, Ce didn't care about the opinions of others. Fortunately, the students of the Imperial College came from wealthy families and had high social status. Teachers usually didn't dare to criticize the students, so even if they saw them on the way, they wouldn't say anything. Also, because today was the annual fencing competition, there were no classes for the entire day. The students arrived at the Imperial College's gymnasium early in the morning and sat in the spectator seats, waiting for the competition to begin. In the spectator seats of the gymnasium, the seats closest to the temporary fencing arena were the VIP seats. Usually, the people who sat in the guest seats were either the school's leaders or the higher-ups. Otherwise, they were the school's board of directors or important figures. After accompanying Yunjian to the waiting area for the fencing competition, Ce walked directly to the VIP seats with one hand in his pocket. He casually picked a VIP seat and crossed his legs after sitting down. Above his handsome face, his starry eyes stared for a long time at Yunjian's silhouette that had just disappeared from the waiting area. He wasn't participating in the waiting area for the fencing competition. The students who were going to participate in the competition were already waiting in the waiting area. The competition hadn't started yet. Yunjian walked over and picked out the one she had picked in the palace from the pile of swords. She had just turned around when she saw Luo Jiejun, Wei Zhe, Wei Min, and Hong Ling. Just as she was about to walk past them, Luo Jiejun suddenly called out to her, "Wei Lin." After speaking, Luo Jiejun was silent for a while, then said, "Be careful." Ce's appearance was something Luo Jiejun never expected, but he still wasn't convinced. Glancing around the waiting area, Luo Jiejun did not see Ce. He had already investigated and found out that Ce had signed up for the fencing competition. This meant that Ce was incompetent and did not dare to go up in the arena. Seeing Yunjian now, Luo Jiejun had nothing to say. He could only play the sentimental card and remind her to be careful in the competition later. However, after hearing his words, Yunjian walked past him as if she didn't hear him at all. Seeing Yunjian walk past her with such a proud attitude, Wei Min thought to herself. She was pregnant, but she still wanted to seduce her brother Jiejun. Wei Min clenched her fists and stared at Yunjian's stomach for a long time. Not far from the audience, someone had already started a bet. Come, come, come. Place your bets. Place your bets. Who do you think will get first place in this year's fencing competition? Hurry up and place your bets. For this year's fencing competition, we'll return you 10 times the amount of your bet. Someone sat on a low stool next to the betting table, took down the names of the people who placed their bets, and shouted for them to continue placing their bets. The students here were all rich second-generation heirs, so they could still afford small bets. I heard that a very beautiful girl is also participating in the fencing competition this year. She even said that she's going to get first place. It's the Wei family's long-lost daughter, Wei Lin. Hey! Let's bet, what place will she get? She's a girl. No matter how beautiful a girl is, it doesn't mean that she's strong. She's even been separated for 10 years. She's just going on stage for a show. What kind of strength can she have? I bet that she'll definitely be third from the bottom in this year's fencing competition. There were endless discussions at the scene. The staff member who set up the betting table was also writing non-stop with the pen in his hand that was used to register the bets placed by the students. However, just as the staff member who set up the betting table was making the last stroke on the registration book in his hand was suddenly taken away, along with the black pen in his hand. Then, a handsome man who angered both men and gods took a black pen and made a tick next to the name, Wei Lin, in front of everyone's eyes. Then, he threw the registration book and the black pen back to the staff member's table. At the same time, a black card fell from the handsome man's hand into the staff member's notebook. A mellow voice then came out of Ce's thin lips. His words stunned everyone around him, and their faces turned pale. Bet on first place, $1 billion USD. Top reading website, M. Chapter 2374. Page 1/1. When the black cards slipped out of CE's hand and landed on the table of the casino staff, it was not only the staff but also the group of rich kids and second-generation heirs around them who were stunned by the sight. They didn't see wrongly. CE had just put a tick next to the name Wei Lin, which meant that he was betting on Wei Lin. 1 billion USD. Converted to RMB, it was a total of 6 billion. In this era, this amount of money was enough to be ranked on the list of the richest people in the country. One had to know that no matter how rich a rich second-generation heir was, having a few $100,000 a month of pocket money was already considered a miracle. But this handsome guy wearing the Imperial College uniform, who couldn't accept any rebuttal, actually bet 1 billion USD. This was simply an inconceivable matter. You. The staff stuttered with his round, dead fish eyes staring at CE. After a pause, he sucked in a deep breath before continuing. Do you really want to use $1 billion to bet? The staff thought that CE was crazy. He must have bet his entire fortune on this bet. Furthermore, he had bet on a girl. Crazy. The fencing competition at the Imperial College had a history of 50 years, and there had never been a girl who won the championship. But he actually wanted to bet 1 billion USD, a huge sum that outsiders wouldn't even dare to imagine, on a girl. The probability of losing was abnormally high. And after the bet was placed, if the bet was wrong after the competition, it would be equivalent to the entire 1 billion USD going down the drain. Can't place a bet? CE frowned when he heard the staff's hesitation and stuttering, obviously annoyed. No. This amount is rather large. I'll ask the higher-ups for their opinion before making a decision. Please wait a moment. The staff hurriedly made a call to his higher-ups. Within a few minutes, he received a response. The higher-ups have already agreed. May I know your name? The staff hurriedly spoke to CE in an extremely respectful tone. Who knew that CE would ignore him and only left a sentence indifferently before turning to leave? 1 million USD, remember to transfer it to this black card. What he meant was that the girl named Wei Lin was definitely not going to be the champion of this competition. Everyone present was shocked by CE's words and couldn't calm down for a long time. CE, the culprit who started the chaos, had already left. There were 3 statues placed on the fencing field for the competition. Before the competition began, Yun Jian and the other students who were participating in this year's fencing competition were invited to stand in a row in the fencing ring to listen to the host introduce the 3 statues of great figures that represented the history of fencing in front of the entire school. Of the 3 statues, one of them is the dean who founded our Imperial College in the last century, John. The taller male statue is a graduate of our Imperial College. He was a fencing genius in the last century. His talent in fencing was popular all over the world. He once sat on the seat of the world's #1 international fencing champion. For a full 20 years, no one could shake his position until his death. And the owner of that female statue is the famous female fencer from the last century, Boyas. Her fame in the field of fencing has spread all over the world. She's even more famous than the male statue. She is a legend in the field of fencing. No one has surpassed her since ancient times. Do you see the flower sword in her hand? Legend has it that as long as you have that flower sword, you will never be defeated in a fencing competition. The owner of the female statue, the legendary female fencer Boyasi, met with an accident during a voyage, and the legendary flower sword, which was said to be a guaranteed winner in a fencing competition, disappeared along with its owner. From then on, no one has seen that legendary flower sword. Top reading website, M. Chapter 2375. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1, Boja, a female fencer from the last century, had defeated countless world fencing champions, causing those male fencers who looked down on female fencers to lose face. Ever since she started competing in fencing competitions, she had never lost a single match. As for her legendary flower sword, it was said that as long as one held it, they would never be defeated. It was said that it was sentient. It was said that the sentient flower sword would only follow one master in its entire life. That legendary flower sword weighed at least 500 kilograms. Ordinary people would not even have the ability to lift a flower sword. Not to mention using that flower sword to spar with others. That legendary flower sword would only follow one master in its entire life. Unless its master passed away, it would then choose another master. However, the most important condition for that legendary flower sword to choose a new master was that the new master must be able to lift the 500-kilogram sword. It was also said that in the history of this world, only 3 people had ever lifted the flower sword. One of the 3 was Boyas, the last owner of the flower sword. It was said that countless people had tried to lift the 500-kilogram flower sword, but without exception, they had all failed miserably. Later on, the flower sword disappeared after its last master, Boyas, met with a mishap during a voyage. That was in 1942, a long time ago. After the host finished his speech, Wei Min looked at Yun Jian strangely, then she gave Yun Jian a disdainful smile, before speaking to the host in front of the entire school. My brother Jiejun, brother Hongling and I have been participating in fencing competitions since we were young, and we have heard a lot about the legendary female fencer, Bozha. This year, the 4 of us have imitated the invincible sword in the female fencer's hand. It weighs 50 kilograms. I believe that our ranking this year will not be bad. Wei Min said this with confidence. As she spoke, she turned to glance at Yun Jian again. There was a glint of smugness in her eyes that could not be ignored. Oh my God! As expected of the eldest daughter of the Wei clan, Wei Min, and the young masters of the 3 great clans in Pyuyo City, they are indeed powerful. He could even use an imitation of the legendary flower sword of the female fencer, Boyce, to create a different flower sword. That's amazing. Someone immediately said. Ordinary flower swords were very light. Most people who used flower swords would usually choose a lighter one to participate in competitions. Of course, only when experts were fighting, the heavier the flower sword, the higher the chance of winning. Luo Jiejun turned to look at Yun Jian smugly when he heard the compliments from the people around him. He tried to see if Yun Jian's face, to see envy or respect for him. However, Luo Jiejun did not see Yun Jian's. Yun Jian, who was standing in front of the crowd, raised her brows and asked the host in front of the crowd, "Is the legendary flower sword you're talking about the one that weighs 500 kilograms? Is it made of pure gold, and has a golden rose engraved on the hilt?" The host was stunned for a moment, then nodded. That's right. According to the legend, as well as the drawings left in the books, this is how it is depicted and drawn. Lin, why are you pretending to know when you don't know? This time, I didn't expect you to participate in the fencing competition, so I didn't prepare a replica of that legendary flower sword for you. But I know that you don't know, so don't. Wei Min pretended to be a good sister again and was only halfway through her words to Yun Jian when Yun Jian was interrupted. Yun Jian cut Wei Min off right in front of everyone and said with a smirk, "You're right. I'm sorry, but that legendary flower sword is now in my hands. It is one of my collections." Top reading website, M. Chapter 2376. Yun Jian's voice trailed off. There was silence all around. Thousands of students from the entire school were seated in the audience seats. The boisterous scene was silenced at once due to Yun Jian's words. It was so quiet that even the sound of breathing could be heard if it was louder. What did she say? That legendary flower sword is now in her hands. One of her collections. What did you say? That legendary flower sword is one of your collections. That flower sword, didn't it disappear completely in the last century, early in 1942, following its original owner, Boyas, in a shipwreck? At this moment, Wei Min could no longer suppress her dark expression. She didn't even care about her identity as a good sister, and exclaimed in front of everyone present. The host also stared at Yun Jian. His hands were trembling violently. That legendary flower sword, is it really, in your hands? Yun Jian did not directly reply to the host's words. She just narrowed her eyes and said, since my good sister can bring her own flower sword, can I too? Yes. 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 After hearing Yun Jian's words, the host said 3 times in a row. Not only the host, but everyone present, including Wei Min, wanted to see with their own eyes whether what Yun Jian said was true. That legendary flower sword, was it really in her hands? But it was not until Yun Jian's subordinate spent 45 minutes flying the legendary flower sword to the scene that everyone present took a deep breath. In front of him was a baroque sword that took 10 people to move into the scene. It was gold in appearance, and anyone could tell at a glance that the baroque sword was made of pure gold. It was the same sword that disappeared with Boja back in 1942. The person who came to move the flower sword left. When he left, he was still panting because he had moved the flower sword all the way. This is really the legendary flower sword. Luo Jiejun was stunned. He walked forward involuntarily, thinking that if he could lift this 500 kilograms flower sword in front of Yun Jian, breaking the record of being the 4th person in history to lift this legendary flower sword, then would Yun Jian be completely attracted to him. Luo Jiejun immediately reached out to lift the flower sword. However, to everyone's surprise, even if Luo Jiejun used all his strength, this legendary flower sword did not have the slightest trace of being moved. When the dozen burly men worked together to move this flower sword in, they were already sweating profusely. One could imagine how heavy this flower sword was. Found it. The flower sword that disappeared from this world for more than half a century. It appeared again. It was too magical. Amazing. Even the host put down the microphone in his hand in surprise and rushed to touch the flower sword. It was made of pure gold. However, just as everyone was attracted by this flower sword, a petite figure walked toward this legendary flower sword in front of everyone present. She's trying to lift the flower sword. She's just a girl. Oh my god. Even if she's the owner of this flower sword, she definitely can't lift it. The people around immediately noticed Yun Jian's intention and shouted out loud. Wei Min saw that Yun Jian immediately stood at the peak of everyone's attention. Even Luo Jiejun glanced at Yun Jian with a different kind of eyeball. She immediately rushed over to try to pull Yun Jian back. She said that she was trying to pull Yun Jian back, but Wei Min wanted to directly rush over and secretly push Yun Jian to the side to make a fool of her. People who are in a hurry will always come up with stupid ideas. However, just as Wei Min wanted to rush up and grab Yun Jian's hand and secretly push Yun Jian down, Yun Jian turned sideways and avoided Wei Min's push in front of thousands of people present. She directly stood beside the legendary flower sword. Then, a scene that made the whole audience boil appeared. They saw Yun Jian reach out and grab the hilt of the flower sword. In front of everyone present, she lifted this 500-kilogram flower sword as if she was lifting something less than 10 kilograms. Everyone present cheered at the same time. Shock swept through the whole audience. Just as everyone stared at Yun Jian in shock, unable to believe that she could actually lift the 500-kilogram baroque sword and become the 4th person in the world to lift the legendary baroque sword, Yun Jian's eyes widened. They saw Yun Jian fling the flower sword towards Wei Min as if she was swinging an arrow. Following that, everyone saw the flower sword fly past Wei Min's face by only a millimeter. Finally, it pierced into the white wall behind Wei Min. This move scared Wei Min so much that she fell to the ground, paralyzed. She looked as if she had just returned from hell and was extremely pale. The scene instantly became silent. At this moment, Yun Jian's cold and ethereal voice, like that of the Grim Reaper wandering at the edge of hell, suddenly sounded in front of thousands of people present. Don't think that I don't know your tricks. This legendary flower sword can help me win the competition, but it can also help me kill people. Using a 500-kilogram flower sword to stab the heart. I really want to try this killing method once. Want to chat with more like-minded people about Campus Rebirth, the strongest female secret agent? Follow Excellent Reading Literature on WeChat. Talk about life, find a confidant. Chapter 2377. At this moment, Yun Jian was on a completely different level from the girl who first appeared in front of everyone who was delusional about winning this fencing competition. At this moment, she could even lift the legendary Baroque sword that weighed up to 500 kilograms effortlessly. She had lifted up the legendary flower sword that only 3 people had ever lifted up since ancient times. This action made everyone present completely believe in Yun Jian's words. Coupled with the fact that Yun Jian was holding the legendary flower sword, she threw the flower sword towards Wei Min and it directly pierced into the huge wall behind Wei Min. When everyone present saw this scene, they suddenly stood up from their respective spectator seats and stared at the scene in front of them. You. Sister, how can you do this to your sister? Sister was just worried that you would touch that flower sword carelessly and hurt yourself. So I wanted to stop you from touching that flower sword. When Wei Min heard Yun Jian's words, she rolled her eyes and quickly changed her words. As she spoke, Wei Min's eyes flashed with viciousness. Yun Jian had already seen through Wei Min. In front of everyone, she walked to the wall expressionlessly and pulled out the flower sword from the wall in front of everyone. Then, she held the 500-kilogram flower sword in her hand and walked towards Wei Min. Wei Lin, I also saw it just now. Your sister only wanted to stop you from taking the flower sword. Sisterhood is deep. Quickly put down the flower sword in your hand. The competition is about to start. When Luo Jiejun saw this, he also stood out and used a very reasonable tone to speak to Yun Jian. Luo Jiejun indeed did not see Wei Min's little actions, so he spoke up for Wei Min just to create an image of himself as a very reasonable person. Who knew that Yun Jian did not care about him? She raised the flower sword and walked towards Wei Min. Wei Lin, you. I'm your sister. I'm your sister. I'm your sister. Wei Min was so frightened that she took a few steps back. It was only when she was about to leave the fencing arena that she shouted at Yun Jian in a trembling voice. But just when all the teachers and students in the audience thought that Yun Jian would definitely not do the frightening thing that she had just mentioned, she suddenly changed her mind. Yun Jian suddenly flung the 500-kilogram sword in her hand at Wei Min. This scene scared everyone to the point that their faces froze. But just when everyone thought that the flower sword would really stab into Wei Min's heart as Yun Jian had said, Wei Min's face changed. The flower sword suddenly brushed past Wei Min's chest with a difference of 0.01 millimeters and was thrown back 5 meters into a wooden box that contained the flower sword. The dozen or so burly men who moved the flower sword to the scene just now had placed the flower sword in a wooden box and moved it to the scene. The 500-kilogram flower sword was thrown back into the wooden box, making a huge bang sound. The thousands of people present were all shocked by Yun Jian's actions just now. At this moment, everyone took a deep breath and stared at the fencing arena without exception. The petite and beautiful figure looked sideways with widened eyes and a face full of shock. After Yun Jian threw the flower sword back into the wooden box, she turned her head to look at the people who had gone up the stage with her and were participating in the fencing competition. After 2 seconds of silence, she swept her gaze across Luo Jiejun, Hong Ling, and Wei Min. That slightly raised arc deepened impudently in front of the thousands of people present. Then, she said coldly, I don't need this flower sword that was used by the female fencer of the last century, boys. The champion of the fencing competition at the end of this year will still be mine. Please remember the domain name of this book, mobile version of reading website. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.